Chapter 583. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. In the afternoon, Huang Fuxian took Nan Xiang into the palace. Along the way, Nan Xiang kept being infatuated with this child, which made Huang Fuxian roll his eyes. "What are you holding in your arms? Can you show it to me?" After getting out of the carriage, Nan Xiang pushed Huang Fuxian's wheelchair, while looking at the small package in Huang Fuxian's arms. Huang Fuxian was holding it when he came out of the room. She didn't know what was inside, but he didn't let it go on the way. "I won't show it to you," Huang Fuxian said proudly. Gu Jiao had said that with this pair of things, his broken limbs could be reattached to his legs. Now that his injuries had not healed, he could not wear them. However, he had thought about it. He wanted to cultivate a relationship with them in advance. Nan Xiang laughed instead of being angry. This child was cute, so cute. He was cute even when he was angry. The two arrived at Qiankuan Palace. Huang Fuxian asked the servants to inform Empress Xiao that he brought a doctor to treat Qin Qiyu. Empress Xiao hurriedly invited him in. Empress Xiao already knew that Huang Fuxian saved Qin Qiyu that night, so she changed her opinion of Huang Fuxian. "How are you? Aren't you recuperating in Clearwater Alley? Why did you come to the palace?" Although she was exhausted, she still cared about Huang Fuxian. Huang Fuxian said, "I'm fine. I brought a doctor here. She is the foster mother of Dr. Gu's younger brother. Her surname is Nan. Dr. Gu asked her to come and check the seventh prince's injury." The foster mother of Jiao Jiao's younger brother, this relationship was a bit complicated. At this point, Empress Xiao didn't have the time to care about these relatives, but since it was introduced by Gu Jiao, it must be reliable. Xiao Heng was on duty at the Ministry of Justice. Only Empress Xiao, Eunuch Su, and the others were here. Empress Xiao looked at Nan Xiang hopefully and said, "Dr. Nan, do you really have a way to cure my son?" Nan Xiang shook her head. "I can't cure him. I can only temporarily suppress the poison in his body. Jiao Jiao has to bring back the antidote for him to fully recover." Empress Xiao was stunned. Poison? Was little Qi poisoned? Before Gu Jiao left, she only asked Eunuch Wei to tell her that she was going to get the medicine. Nan Xiang thought to herself. Just now, the two of them parted in a hurry and didn't finish matching their statements. But since they had already said it, it was impossible to take it back. She could only tell the truth. "Yes, it's a very rare poison. Empress, don't worry too much. Jiao Jiao has already gone to get the antidote." Empress Xiao nervously asked, "Then if we can't get it back?" Nan Xiang took a deep breath and slowly said, "Bring it back before daybreak and His Highness can still be saved." "You mean, little Qi can only hold on until dawn?" Empress Xiao felt the world spinning around her, and she almost collapsed. Eunuch Su caught her in time. Nan Xiang walked to the bedside and took out a bottle of pills. She pulled out the cork and placed one pill under Qin Chiyu's tongue. This was actually also a type of poison. Fighting poison with poison to suppress the poison in his body. However, he had to control the dosage. If it was too light, it would have no effect. If it was too heavy, it would poison Qin Chiyu to death. Therefore, she had to stay and observe slowly. "Empress, don't fall down yourself. If you fall down, what will happen to His Highness?" Eunuch Su earnestly advised. Empress Xiao tried to force herself to calm down. She held back her tears, closed her eyes and said to Eunuch Su, "Go and arrange a room for Xian'er to rest." "Yes." Eunuch Su pushed Huang Fuxian out. Empress Xiao stabilized her emotions and sat down beside the bed. Nan Xiang sat on the stool opposite the bed. Empress Xiao sat slightly higher than her. Perhaps because she had calmed down. Empress Xiao carefully looked at Nan Xiang. Nan Xiang was wearing a veil, so she couldn't see her face clearly. But because of the angle, Empress Xiao still saw a little disfigurement through the gap of the veil. Empress Xiao didn't say anything and looked away. But for some reason, she shifted her gaze back to him. This time, she looked at Nan Xiang's eyes. She felt that these eyes were familiar, as if she had seen them somewhere before. On the bed, Qin Chiyu groaned in pain, which interrupted Empress Xiao's thoughts. Empress Xiao hurried to see how her son was doing. Nan Xiang stood up, stepped forward and hugged Qin Chiyu, making him sit up and lie down. In the next second, Qin Chiyu spat out a mouthful of black blood. Empress Zhao's beautiful face turned pale. Little Qi. Nan Xiang patted Qin Chiyu's breath and slowly put him back. Then she put another black pill under his tongue. Empress Xiao said worriedly, Dr. Nan, what's wrong with little Qi? The poison in his highness' body is acting up. Nan Xiang looked at the night sky outside the window. I hope Jiao Jiao can find the antidote as soon as possible. Under the wall, Gu Jiao looked at the line of dragon shadow guards Tonghulu and was speechless for a moment. She didn't know how they followed her here. Was it too late to send them back now? Forget it, she needed to find the antidote quickly. Gu Jiao didn't think this manor was very big when she observed it from a distance. But after she came in, she found that there was another world inside. No wonder a small army of dragon shadow guards could live here. It was reasonable to say that such a big manor with so many people living here shouldn't be hidden so well. Gu Jiao wandered around before she finally understood why there were so few people here. This manor was actually built on top of a graveyard. Behind the manor was a large graveyard, but it looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. No one came to pay their respects, and the grass on the graveyard was 2 meters tall. The people of Yin Kingdom were very vigilant. Even if they lived in such a poor place, they were still ready to fight. There were guards of Yin Kingdom and dragon shadow guards patrolling back and forth in the manor 24 hours a day. Gu Jiao didn't confront them directly. She carefully avoided their sight. There were 3 big courtyards and 7 or 8 small courtyards in the manor. Most of the small courtyards were for dragon shadow guards and guards. The big courtyards were Gu Jiao's target. Gu Jiao, Long Yi and others entered the east courtyard first. Gu Jiao was responsible for searching, and Long Yi and others were responsible for covering. It had to be said that they were able to freely shuttle back and forth among such a large number of dragon shadow guards of Yin Kingdom, thanks to Long Yi and others. They used their aura to perfectly conceal Gu Jiao's aura. And the reason why they weren't noticed was mostly because they and dragon shadow guards of Yin Kingdom were death warriors. Their aura was very similar. The patrolling people walked over and thought that the people inside the house were their own people. So naturally they didn't go in to check. There was nothing in the east courtyard. Gu Jiao shook her head towards Long Yi, then walked towards the west courtyard. There were several Yin Kingdoms strategists living in this courtyard. Gu Jiao didn't know the identity of the other party, so from their appearance and temperament, she temporarily called them that. Strange, so many people came here. There were literati and martial artists, just to deal with the son of a female slave? This time we were careless. The voice of a man full of vigor inadvertently came from the study. He was speaking the language of Zhao country, but his accent was not right. This was a person from Yin Kingdom. Along with the gradual recovery of her strength, Gu Jiao's 5 senses also improved a lot. She was separated by a whole room, but even in a state of concentration, she could still hear the voice from that side. Gu Jiao held her breath with rapt attention. She heard that man continue to speak, but also blamed Qin Fengyan for being too impatient. If she was willing to listen to our orders, she wouldn't have exposed herself so early. After that, another person in the room said something. But unfortunately his voice was too low, so Gu Jiao really didn't hear it clearly. But Gu Jiao guessed that the other party was saying something like, "You overestimated her," because that person from Yin Kingdom replied, "Didn't we also want to surpass our master?" Who would have thought that compared to her mother, she was still a little lacking? After that, the 2 people switched between Yin Kingdom and Zhao country. When they spoke Zhao country, their voice was too low. When they spoke Yin Kingdom, Gu Jiao couldn't understand. This really made Gu Jiao regret not learning more foreign languages. There was one sentence that Gu Jiao understood. "General Nangong, many thanks." The person from Yin Kingdom in the room was a general? After that sentence, the people in the room came out one by one. The 2 people were surrounded by a large group of dragon shadow guards, so it was very difficult to see their appearance. One of them came out of the manor, and the other went to the courtyard. The latter should be that General Nangong. He said something to his subordinates, but it was all in Yin Kingdom. Gu Jiao couldn't understand, but Long Yi seemed to understand. He picked up Gu Jiao and went to the rear of the courtyard. Unexpectedly, there was a small courtyard hidden behind the courtyard. There was no one guarding this small courtyard. Every corner of this manor was heavily guarded, except for this place. Either there was nothing inside and it was empty, or it was very dangerous and didn't need anyone to guard it. Gu Jiao leaned towards the latter. Long Yi stepped forward to scout the way. Just as he stepped into the courtyard, an arrow shot out high up in the sky. Long Yi suddenly grabbed it and stepped back, protecting Gu Jiao behind him. Gu Jiao was fine. Gu Jiao looked at the cobblestone pattern on the ground of the courtyard again. This time she understood. She faintly pulled up the corner of her mouth. 8 trigrams array. The first thing that her godfather taught her in her previous life was arrays. Gu Jiao took the lead. She was familiar with the path, as if she was entering a no-man's land. After she broke through the array, she planned to remind Long Yi and the others to follow her footsteps. Who would have thought that when she turned around, they were gone? She turned her head again, and the 5 people uniformly stood in front of her. Gu Jiao. I forgot that you are dragon shadow guards, light and powerful. Wait, if this array couldn't stop the powerful dragon shadow guards, then what was the meaning of its existence? Could it be that all the people who broke into this courtyard were ordinary people? Gu Jiao felt that something was wrong. At this moment, a few small black dots flew out from inside the house and flew onto their necks and the back of their hands. It was a bug. Gu Jiao swatted the bug on the back of her hand away. She was fine, but in the next second, the 4 dragon shadow guards who were stung by the bug uniformly fell forward on the ground. Gu Jiao suddenly remembered what happened in the imperial study. Qin Fengyan had waved her hand and knocked down His Majesty's dragon shadow guards. Could it be that she used these small poisonous bugs? They were the nemesis of the dragon shadow guards? Gu Jiao looked at Long Yi. Long Yi had the most small poisonous bugs. Long Yi looked at Gu Jiao and then looked at his brothers who had fallen on the ground. He was stunned for 3 seconds. Then he fell face down in the same position. Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao facepalmed. Long Yi, you're fine. Long Yi reached out his hand and pulled out a handful of grass from the grave and inserted it into his head. It seemed to be saying, since he was already dead, I should burn some paper money for him. Gu Jiao. Digression. The 3rd night watch is here. Is there a monthly ticket for me to sneak in? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826/10846026/HTML Genius memorized the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile version website. Chapter 584. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all here. They're not dead. They were clearly still breathing. Gu Jiao didn't know what to say. Princess Xinyang had it hard. Meeting a dragon shadow guard like Long Yi, Princess Xinyang had probably collapsed a lot. The little poisonous insects on Long Yi's body couldn't do anything to Long Yi, and they were all crushed to death by Long Yi. On the other hand, the little poisonous insects on the other 4 dragon shadow guards were still alive and biting on their exposed skin. Gu Jiao squatted down and pinched the little poisonous insect on the neck of a dragon shadow guard. Who would have thought that when the black little poisonous insect came down, the poisonous stinger was broken in the flesh? It seemed that she had to let these little poisonous insects pull out the stinger themselves. Okay, she had the all-purpose essential balm. Gu Jiao took out a bottle of essential balm from her bosom and dripped it on the rest of the little poisonous bugs. As expected, these bugs instantly became dizzy from the smell and fell from the dragon shadow guard's body with a clatter. The wound on the neck of the first dragon shadow guard also had to be treated in time. There were no tweezers here, so Gu Jiao could only use the concealed silver needles she carried with her to open the wound and pick out the poisonous stinger. Finally, Gu Jiao applied a bit of wound medicine on him. During the whole process, Gu Jiao didn't take any defensive measures, but these insects didn't bite her. Combined with Qin Fengyan's experience of carrying poisonous insects on her body, they might only bite death soldiers. But Long Yi was also a death soldier, so why didn't they bite him? Knowing that his brothers were fine, Long Yi didn't continue to pretend to be dead. He didn't know if it was because he adhered to the principle of enjoying blessings and suffering together, but he sat cross-legged on the ground and grabbed a little poisonous insect and threw it on the back of his hand. He threw it again and again. He felt that the insects were all dizzy from his throwing. Gu Jiao took out an empty small porcelain bottle, caught a few poisonous insects, and put them in, bringing them home to study. The 4 dragon shadow guards sat against the wall. This kind of poisonous insect was too powerful for them, so they needed some time to recover. Gu Jiao went inside to look for the medicine, and let Long Yi stay here to guard. The courtyard was not big, and there were only 4 rooms in total. Gu Jiao searched through them one by one, and found a row of medicine shelves in the second last room. There were a lot of medicinal materials for external injuries on the shelf, such as Jinshuang ointment, hemostasis pills, and meridian deblocking pills. However, these were not the medicines that Gu Jiao was looking for. Finally, Gu Jiao saw more than 10 inconspicuous bottles and jars on a shelf at the bottom of the room. She couldn't recognize the contents of the jars. Which one is the antidote? Forget it, let's take it back first. Gu Jiao took out the gunny sack. Excluding the medicine for external injuries that she could identify, she put the rest into the gunny sack. Qin Chuyu was still waiting for the antidote, so Gu Jiao didn't search for anything else. Otherwise, with her temperament, she would have emptied the manor. To be on the safe side, Gu Jiao went to the last room and searched. After making sure that she didn't miss a single bottle of medicine, she returned to the corridor. The 4 dragon shadow guards hadn't been poisoned for a long time, so their lives weren't in danger. At this moment, the 4 of them were already able to stand up and use some of their skills. Let's go, Gu Jiao said to them. Long Yi grabbed Gu Jiao and used his qinggong to rush out of the courtyard. The other 4 people were still poisoned, and could only use 30 to 40% of their qinggong, but it was enough for them to get out of this small courtyard. The next step was to leave this place and quickly return to the capital. The sky was dark and there were no stars and no moon. The cold wind of the second month's night wasn't as biting cold as the bitter winter, but it was still bone-cracking cold. The guards at night were clearly much stricter than at dusk. There were 10 people in a group, 1 imperial bodyguard and 9 dragon shadow guards patrolling back and forth in the main passages of the manor. The 100 dragon shadow guards mentioned by Princess Xinyang didn't mean that there were only 100 people in the manor. Counting the normal imperial bodyguards and the leader, she estimated that there were no less than 200 people. Gu Jiao and Long Yi carefully avoided the patrolling people of Yan country. Step by step, they approached the southern wall of the manor. Just a moment ago, they had entered from this place. This place was the closest to the official road, so it was the easiest to evacuate. Everything was going smoothly, but no one had expected that halfway, a wild cat would suddenly appear. This was an unexpected situation. No one had expected to encounter a wild cat. Xiaoheng was afraid of cats. Therefore Long Yi instinctively hated cats. When he released his aura, that wild cat was so scared that it meowed and fell from the top of the wall, smashing into a withered branch. The withered branch issued a very slight crisp sound. For the dragon shadow guards with their amazing hearing, this was a very big movement. There's someone over there. An unfamiliar voice bellowed. Immediately afterwards, a whole row of ice-cold arrows mixed with hidden weapons covered the sky and covered the earth. Like a dense big net, with an awe-inspiring austere aura, it attacked them without leaving any leeway. This was the first time that Gu Jiao had experienced the attack of the people of Yan country. It had to be said that first of all, their attack and strategy were different from ordinary armies. Gu Jiao pulled out her red tasseled spear. Supporting the spear head on the ground, she jumped up and jumped on top of the arrow net, avoiding this wave of attack. And as for Long Yi, he shook his arms and shot out internal force, shaking off the 4 people beside him. After that, he also jumped high up in the sky, and stepping on the arrows flying in the air, he directly flew towards that wave of archery patrol. With a caw sound, he twisted the neck of the leading Imperial bodyguard. Gu Jiao understood and said to the 4 dragon shadow guards who were still poisoned, "Let's go." The 4 of them were unwilling to leave their boss behind. Gu Jiao threw them one by one. Because the 4 of them were poisoned, their condition was not good, so they really threw them to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao. The feeling of throwing the dragon shadow guards is too good. The movement here alarmed the Imperial bodyguards in the manor, and more dragon shadow guards rushed over. After Gu Jiao threw the last dragon shadow guard of Princess Xinyang over, she quickly jumped up the wall. But the moment she jumped down, a thin rope suddenly stretched out behind her and wrapped around her waist. With a "so," she was pulled back to the manor and fell heavily on the ground. Gu Jiao wanted to protect the medicine on her body, so she was unable to properly protect herself. This fall was not light. Gu Jiao let out a muffled groan. The owner of the rope still did not let go. He suddenly increased his strength and pulled Gu Jiao back. Gu Jiao picked up the red tasseled spear on the ground. With her bare hands, she took off the white cloth wrapped around the spear. She turned over and knelt on one knee. Holding the red tasseled spear, she fiercely slashed. With a paw sound, the thin rope was mercilessly cut off by the red tasseled spear. The Imperial bodyguard who was holding the rope suddenly lost his grip and fell back to the ground. The youth knelt on one knee, wearing a coquettish peacock mask. The pair of eyes that were exposed were as fierce as the god of deaths. Not far away, a man from the Yin kingdom who saw this scene was suddenly stunned. His gaze fell on the wolf-like youth. He was shocked by the youth's skills and murderous aura. His agility was secondary. Such talented youths could be found everywhere in the Yin kingdom. But his gaze and aura were different from those he had seen before. And his red tasseled spear. The red tasseled spear had a big red flower pasted on it by the little Jing Kong, and his hair was braided. To be honest, one could not tell anything from a glance. He wanted to take a second look, but the youth was taken away by the powerful death warrior. Or perhaps it should be said that he was taken away. "General." An Imperial bodyguard cupped his hands and said, "I'm incompetent to let him break into the manor." The man from the Yin kingdom said, "Send someone to chase after him. Also, check if there's anything missing in the manor." Yes. The Imperial bodyguard ordered 2 groups of people to act separately. The man from the Yin kingdom looked in the direction of the youth's departure, and did not come back to his senses for a long time. A counselor came over. "General, what are you looking at?" The man from the Yin kingdom used his eyes to indicate the direction of the courtyard wall. "Did you see that youth just now? Don't you think he's a little familiar?" "Familiar?" The counselor said. "No, he was wearing a mask. I didn't see his face clearly." The man from the Yin kingdom said thoughtfully, "It's not his appearance. It's that murderous aura." The youth did not make many moves and there was not a bloody scene. But someone with a natural aura was different from others when he made a move. The counselor smiled and said, "That youth is just so. He's not very powerful. There are many people like him in the Yin kingdom." The man from the Yin kingdom frowned. "I thought he was familiar. Is it his gaze? Or is it related to his weapon?" The counselor asked. "General, are you referring to that long spear?" The man from the Yin kingdom murmured, "It's not an ordinary long spear. It's a red tasseled spear. It's a bit like Xianyuan Li's divine weapon." "Xianyuan Li." The counselor smiled. "Xianyuan Li's red tasseled spear is indeed in the Zhao kingdom. It's not strange if you saw it." "General, don't tell me you thought you saw Xianyuan Li's descendant just now?" The man from the Yin kingdom sighed. "I thought too much. The men of the Xianyuan family have all been killed. Even the babies in swaddling clothes were not spared. It's impossible for there to be a descendant left in the world." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg com/89642_896422826/1084465581. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 585. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. Gu Jiao and Long Yi returned to the forest. Princess Xinyang's carriage and her subordinates were still there. Princess Xinyang had already noticed that Long Yi and the others were missing, so she wasn't surprised to see them return with Gu Jiao. "Why did you take so long?" Princess Xinyang asked. Long Yi put Gu Jiao into the carriage. Gu Jiao's cheeks were once again numbed by the cold wind. It took her a long time to regain her senses. Gu Jiao didn't answer Princess Xinyang's question, but said in a muffled voice, "Can you tell Long Yi not to pinch me?" Long Yi's speed was too fast. Being pinched really felt like there was a big blower blowing wind in front of him. Princess Xinyang curled her lips. He only listened half a sentence. "I told him not to pinch you in the future, but I guarantee that he only heard pinch you." Gu Jiao. One day she would definitely pinch Long Yi and stroll around everywhere. Gu Jiao continued. "Something happened and we alerted the enemy." "Are you injured?" Princess Xinyang asked. Gu Jiao said, "Long Yi and I are fine. The others were bitten by poisonous insects. They weren't ordinary poisonous insects. They were specially used to deal with dragon shadow guards. That day in the imperial study, Qin Fengyan should have used these poisonous insects." Princess Xinyang opened the curtain and looked at the 4 dragon shadow guards riding on horses. They were wearing masks, so she couldn't see whether their faces were pale or not. "Is it very serious?" she asked. Gu Jiao said, "They cleaned up the poisonous insects in time, but there is still a bit of poison left in their bodies." Princess Xinyang frowned. They weren't even afraid of poisonous snakes, but they were actually afraid of poisonous insects. Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Everything has its vanquisher. Sometimes the more powerful the existence, the more inconspicuous its natural enemy is." "That's true." Princess Xinyang put down the curtain. "You and Long Yi weren't bitten." Gu Jiao shook her head. "Those bugs won't bite us." Princess Xinyang could understand why it didn't bite Gu Jiao. If it was specifically to deal with the dragon shadow guard, then Gu Jiao wasn't within the scope of the poisonous bug's preference. But Long Yi. Princess Xinyang looked at Long Yi, who was obediently sitting on the outer seat of the carriage, and muttered, "Sure enough, he came in randomly." She pressed her forehead and asked, "Did you get the antidote?" Gu Jiao untied the bundle from her body. "All the medicine that I could find is here. I just don't know which bottle is the antidote. I have to take it back and let Madame Nan take a look." Princess Xinyang had heard of Shenyang before. She was the wife of the carpenter master that Xiao Heng found for Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Yan through Elder Feng's connections. However, she had never seen him before. Princess Xinyang pondered for a moment and asked, "What if Qin Fengyan was lying to you? What if the antidote isn't in the hands of the people of Yan?" Gu Jiao confessed. "After she said that, I used a hallucinogen to interrogate her again. The answers were the same. She didn't lie." Princess Xinyang asked doubtfully, "What is a hallucinogen?" Gu Jiao explained, "It's a kind of knockout drug used to interrogate people." Princess Xinyang glanced at her. "Is it very effective?" Gu Jiao continued, "It's effective for some people, but some people will be immersed in the hallucination and unable to communicate with the outside world. That way, it won't be effective." Princess Xinyang said indifferently, "Give me some later." Gu Jiao, "Okay." Thinking of something, Gu Jiao hurriedly said, "Time is tight. I'll make it short. There are 2 more things." Princess Xinyang looked at her. "Speak." Gu Jiao said, "In the people of Yan, there is a general surnamed Nangong. Also today there was a person from Zhao who dealt with General Nangong. Before he left, he said to General Nangong, 'General Nangong, thank you.'" Princess Xinyang suspiciously frowned. "General Nangong?" General Nangong, thank you? Gu Jiao wanted to quickly send the antidote back to the imperial palace. Princess Xinyang let Long Yi accompany her. The two of them picked two of the strongest horses. Gu Jiao rode on the back of the horse and warned Princess Xinyang. The four of them have been poisoned. It's best if they don't ride horses in case something happens on the way. After we return to the capital, I'll detoxify them. Princess Xinyang said seriously, I know. Hurry up and go. You must save little Qi. Gu Jiao pulled the reins tightly and turned the horse around. Looking back at the carriage, she said, also, the people of Yen might chase after us. Be careful. Princess Xinyang said, don't worry about that. Let's go quickly. Gu Jiao and Long Yi quickly urged their horses and rushed into the night. It was just past midnight. It was reasonable to say that there was plenty of time. Unfortunately, the dragon shadow guards of Yen country caught up. There was only one official road. No matter how Gu Jiao and Long Yi shook them off, they were still getting closer and closer. Long Yi reined in his horse. Gu Jiao turned around and exchanged a tacit glance with him. Gu Jiao continued to urge the horse forward. Long Yi turned around and blocked the path of that group of people with his own strength. Gu Jiao raised the horse's speed to the limit. This was the official road that Qin Fengyan had escaped from. 10 li ahead, they would reach the Phoenix Pavilion. After passing the Phoenix Pavilion, they would reach the Phoenix Pavilion. Songbei Mountain was less than 20 li away from the western gate of the capital. But when they approached the Phoenix Pavilion, an arrow suddenly shot from the side of the mountain and hit Gu Jiao's horse. The horse cried out in pain and fell forward. Gu Jiao also rushed out. It was too late to pull out her spear. She protected the bundle in her bosom and rolled several times on the ground before she finally stabilized her body. However, before she could stand up, another arrow whizzed through the air. If she hadn't reacted quickly and moved half an inch to the side, that arrow would have nailed her entire arm to the ground. Gu Jiao's eyes were like torches as she looked in the direction of the hill. There, a black-robed expert stood with a bow. His wide sleeves were fluttering in the cold wind. Even though they were separated by thousands of mountains and rivers, Gu Jiao could still feel the killing intent in his eyes. His aura was not weaker than serious. He came up from the side road, so he didn't meet Long Yi on the official road. It seemed that if she didn't kill him today, she wouldn't be able to leave. Now that she had recovered her strength, she wouldn't be too embarrassed if she met Sirius. If she fought well, she might be able to tie with him, but it was almost impossible for her to kill him. Gu Jiao coldly raised her hand and held the red-tasseled spear on her back. The cunning palace was brightly lit. Qin Chuyu was unconscious, and the palace servants didn't dare to breathe. Empress Xiao and Nan Xiang had been waiting in the room until now. Eunuch Su saw that Empress Xiao was so haggard that even her eyes were bloodshot, but he didn't dare to persuade her. Empress Xiao's eyes were swollen from crying, and her voice was hoarse. She held Qin Chuyu's hand and stroked his pale face. She choked with sobs. Little Qi, you have to hold on. Nothing must happen to you. As long as you wake up, Mother will promise you anything. Mother won't force you to memorize books. I won't force you to practice calligraphy. If you don't want to go to the Imperial College, Mother won't send you there. How many snacks do you want to eat? Mother will give you. Nothing must happen to you. Qin Chuyu's little body began to convulse. Nan Xiang quickly stood up and pulled up Qin Chuyu's sleeve. She saw that the white mark on Qin Chuyu's wrist had already spread to his palm. Once it reached his fingertips, he would be powerless to save himself. Dr. Nan, how is little Qi? Empress Xiao cried and asked. Nan Xiang said, his condition is worse than I expected. I can't suppress the poison anymore. I can't wait until dawn. She looked at the hourglass on the wall and said with a complicated expression, At most he has 2 hours. If he can't bring the antidote back by 4 o'clock in the morning. If that was the case, then perhaps, even the great firmament deities wouldn't be able to save him. Empress Xiao threw herself onto Qin Chuyu's body and cried, Xiaoqi, little Qi. Outside the Phoenix Pavilion, the moon was dark and the wind was strong. Gu Jiao and the black-robed man had fought for hundreds of rounds. As time went by, Gu Jiao's strength was disappearing little by little. She underestimated Sky Wolf's realm. Last time on the snow mountain, she tricked Sky Wolf and didn't let him use his real strength. Now that she met the second Sky Wolf, she knew how terrible a master of this realm was. Gu Jiao's arm and waist were slightly injured. She was supported by the red-tasseled spear. Otherwise, she would have been cut by the man's long saber. The black-robed man chopped down his long saber again. Gu Jiao's spear was like a dragon, twisting his long saber. The two weapons collided, and a series of sparks appeared in the dark night. Neither of them gave way. They were so close to each other that even the murderous intent in their eyes was fierce. Gu Jiao kicked him, and he blocked it with his shoe. They both stepped back, and Gu Jiao stepped back more. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. If they continued fighting like this, they wouldn't be able to kill him until dawn. Gu Jiao knelt on one knee, using her spear to support her exhausted body. She looked at him with her red eyes and panted. Suddenly Gu Jiao stood up, showing a ferocious look in her eyes. She raised her left hand and grabbed the safety talisman around her neck with her fingertips. She tore off the safety talisman given to her by Princess Xinyang and put her fist down. She loosened her fist, and the safety talisman slowly fell to the ground. The black-robed man looked at the young man in front of him strangely, not understanding what he was doing. The young man stuck out the tip of his tongue and licked the blood on the corner of his mouth. The next second, the young man's aura suddenly soared. The god of killing has returned. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1084455585. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 586. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that can't be found online will be available here. The black-robed man almost instinctively felt a threat. It was reasonable to say that the youth's strength was far below his, so he shouldn't have this kind of feeling. The youth attacked him, and his moves weren't any different from before. He didn't know who taught this youth's spear skills, but they were abnormally simple. There were only a few moves, but each move was a killing move. The youth held the red-tasseled spear with both hands, and the spearhead fiercely chopped down at him. He waved his saber to block. What surprised him was that the youth was clearly using the same moves as before, but the power seemed to have increased several times. His hand and arm both went numb. The youth didn't give him any time to recover, and the second spear was already stabbing at him. This time, he still chose to use his saber to defend. The heavy red-tasseled spear pressed down on the long saber he raised high. The youth's strength was so great that his entire body sank several inches into the ground. What was this youth doing just now? How did his strength increase so much? When the youth's third spear came, he finally didn't choose to defend, and attacked. Who would have thought that the youth's red-tasseled spear would push him back more than 10 steps? The youth didn't retreat at all. The black-robed man's eyes flashed with a trace of extreme shock. It was true that he hadn't used all of his strength when fighting with the youth because he couldn't use that much. It was like a Fergana horse that could run up to 400 li a day, but if it really ran that far, it would die. The black-robed man had only used 50% of his strength at the beginning, and he felt that it was more than enough. Now he had to use 60%. Since coming to Zhao country, this was the first person to force him to use 60% of his strength. The two exchanged several moves, and the youth's moves were more ruthless than the last. There were no feints, and they were all killing moves. The black-robed man's body was injured, both internal and external. He endured the pain from all over his body. On the other hand, although the youth was also injured, it seemed like he couldn't feel the pain at all. He didn't care about the tearing of his wounds and the blood, and attacked him without any regard for his life. Losing one's sense of pain in a fight was a very dangerous thing. Wherever one felt pain, it meant that there was no place that could withstand any more force. Once one lost this sense of judgment, the consequences would be extremely terrifying. Gu Jiao slashed out with her spear again, bringing with it the power of mountains and rivers, boundless killing intent. The black-robed expert saw that the situation was not good. He did not plan to play conservatively with the youth. He directly increased his strength by 80%, enough to crush the youth's realm. Of course, this was also the limit of what he could do in a safe battle. If he went any further, he would have to sacrifice 800 of his men to kill 1,000 of his enemies, or perish together with his enemies. If he could kill this young man, it would be worth it even if he got injured. With that thought in mind, the black-robed master unleashed his most ferocious attack on the boy. He thought that he could finally finish off the young man in front of him, but who would have thought that the young man's aura would explode once again? How could this be? The black-robed expert was dumbfounded. He gritted his teeth. Forget it. Then let's just perish together. The black-robed expert had raised his power to the extreme. His meridians could not withstand such a terrifying power, and began to crack inch by inch. He also began to bleed from his 7 orifices. He poured all his internal energy into the treasured sword in his right hand, and fiercely slashed at Gu Jiao. With a poochie sound, a red-tasseled spear mercilessly pierced through his chest. He looked at the youth in front of him in disbelief, not understanding how he had done this. The youth indifferently walked towards him. He held the red-tasseled spear in one hand and fiercely pushed it, completely piercing through his body. The black-robed expert fell to the ground. Even in death, he did not understand how he had died at the hands of such a young man. He looked at the obscure and boundless sky. Killing God. He saw the killing God. Everything was over. The road outside the Phoenix Pavilion was completely silent. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood. Gu Jiao held the red-tasseled spear. Her eyes were pitch black as she looked in front of her. Her eyes were not focused. Her killing intent did not decrease because the black-robed expert had fallen. She still wanted to kill. If she couldn't kill others, then she would kill herself. Chiao! Little Nine flapped his wings and flew around Gu Jiao, circling above Gu Jiao's head. Chiao Chiao! Little Nine shouted at Gu Jiao. Gu Ji. Gajita! Gu Jiao pointed the red-tasseled spear at Little Nine. Little Nine flapped his wings and his feathers exploded. Chiao! Little Nine was very afraid, but he did not run away. He bravely flew above Gu Jiao's head, and used his beak to peck at Gu Jiao's hair. Chiao! 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 There was a trace of struggle in Gu Jiao's eyes. She threw the red-tasseled spear to the ground, and then she took out a string from her waist, tightly tying her hands together. She flipped onto the horse and used her will to suppress the large killing intent in her body. Little Nine flew behind the horse and used his beak to peck at the horse's butt. The horse was in pain and quickly galloped. Gu Jiao's eyes had blood flowing down, and she could no longer see the road. Little Nine led the way in front, and held onto the horse's reins. One person, one eagle and one horse, madly galloped in the night. Little Nine, go faster, I can't control it anymore. Little Nine seemed to have felt Gu Jiao's killing intent. He chirped and quickly led the horse to the city gate. The city had already received orders, and was waiting for her to bring back the antidote. On the city gate tower, a guard suddenly pointed to the direction of Songbei Mountain and loudly said, "Master, look, someone is coming." How many people? It seems to be the youth who came out of the city. Quickly open the city gate. The city gate opened and the city guards came forward to welcome them. Gu Jiao's mask had already drooped down at some point. Her entire body was covered in blood, and her face was also covered in blood. Her hands were still tied. If they had not seen her leave the city before, no one would have dared to recognize her. What was worse was that everyone could feel the murderous intent in her eyes. She wanted to kill. Retreat! The guard captain shouted. Everyone pulled out their swords and retreated. Gu Jiao untied the bundle on her back, and threw it to the guard captain with her tied hands. Antidote. She looked at the guard captain with her blood-red eyes and said with the last trace of reason, "Close the city gate. Don't open it." The guard captain's heart thumped. "Master." The subordinate beside him looked at him in a daze. The guard captain looked at the murderous Gu Jiao and raised his hand with a complicated expression. Everyone enter the city and close the gate. Master, do as I say. Everyone gritted their teeth and entered the city. They pulled the winch and heavily closed the gate. Little Nine flapped his wings and shouted at Gu Jiao. Chirp! 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 Gu Jiao grabbed him and threw him in through the gap in the city gate. Master! Just as the city gate was about to close, a tall and thin white figure rushed out from the gap in the gate. Everyone wanted to grab him, but before they could, they heard a rumbling sound. The city gate that needed 20 people to open at the same time was tightly closed. A roar came from the city tower. Are you crazy? Why aren't you stopping him? That is Master Xiao of the Hanlin Academy. The rope on Gu Jiao's wrist was specially made for her to deal with any sudden situations where she lost control. There were small needles on the rope. If she struggled until the needles broke, the neurotoxin inside would enter her body. The more she struggled, the more neurotoxin would enter her body. All of it added up was enough to kill her. She lay on the horse's back and let the neurotoxin numb her body. She knew that she could not use more, but her killing intent did not decrease. Jiao Jiao. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded in her ears. A pair of strong arms reached over and carried her down from the horse without any hesitation. The rope on her hand was untied. She was pulled into a strong and warm embrace. Surnamed Gu. What kind of monster is your daughter? Hurry up and take her away. Mother. Mother, I'll be good. Don't send me away. I cannot eat. I will not pee my pants. I will not cry. I don't care if you cry or not. Go away. I don't want you anymore. Mother. Go away. Mother, mother, mother. 3-year-old Gu Jiao's hands were covered in blood as she hugged a headless doll. She stood barefooted in the dark corridor, facing the biting cold wind. She knocked on the cold, tightly shut door. Mummy, mummy, I'm not a monster. Gu Jiao said in a muddled state. Xiao Heng sat on the ground, tightly hugging her blood-stained body. His neck had been bitten by her, and blood had dyed his clothes red. His cold face was pressed against her burning forehead, and he said with heartache, Jiao Jiao, of course you're not. Jiao Jiao is the best Jiao Jiao in the world. You're Ahing's wife. Ahing is not afraid of Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao, who was in a daze, used 2 slender fingers to pinch a bit of his sleeve. She said in a daze, I'm just that good. Digression. Third watch, please give me a vote. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1084393736. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 587. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. The wind was gentle and the sun was bright and sunny. Gu Jiao woke up to the chirping of birds. She opened her eyes and found herself lying in an unfamiliar room. With her temperament, she should have been alert at the first moment, but she wasn't. The pillow and quilt emitted a familiar smell and fragrance, inexplicably calming. Creak. The door was pushed open from the outside by a small gap, and a tall figure flashed in. It was Long Yi. He grabbed a big spatula and strolled around the room. Gu Jiao almost closed her eyes for a second. Long Yi bent down and stared at Gu Jiao for a long time, as if he was wondering why she didn't wake up even though he had clearly heard movement. Long Yi finally grabbed his spatula and went out. Gu Jiao secretly sighed in relief. She didn't want to be fed by Long Yi's spatula. The smell on the bed and Long Yi guarding the door made Gu Jiao feel that her current situation was very safe. Creak. The door was pushed open again, and Gu Jiao subconsciously closed her eyes. She was worried that Long Yi was causing trouble again. The result was that she didn't hear Long Yi's footsteps. Gu Jiao opened her eyes and turned her head to look in the direction of the door. Xiaoheng walked over to the bedside, and seeing her open eyes, he hurriedly asked, "Awake?" Gu Jiao replied. Xiaoheng came to the bedside, bent down, and stretched out his slender hand to touch her forehead. "It's not hot anymore." "How long have I been asleep?" Gu Jiao asked. 3 days. Xiaoheng said. "So long," Gu Jiao muttered. "This is the house on Vermilion Bird Avenue. I told my family that my mother has angina, so you stay here and take care of her." Xiaoheng sat down on the stool beside the bed, looked at Gu Jiao carefully, and asked softly, "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Jiao shook her head. "No, it's just that I've been sleeping for a long time, so I feel a little tired. That's what happens when you sleep for too long. Let me help you up." Xiaoheng's words came too late, because Gu Jiao had already planned to sit up on her own. Then Gu Jiao's small body stiffened in midair. Her eyes moved, and she lay down. "I feel a little weak." Xiaoheng helped the weak person up. She was wearing thin pajamas, and his fingertips and palms could almost feel the softness of her arms. Xiaoheng's eyelashes trembled slightly. He took a cushion and placed it behind her back, then took a thin jacket from the wardrobe and draped it over her. This was a set of clothes that Princess Xinyang had asked an embroiderer to make for Gu Jiao. The wardrobe was filled with clothes, but Princess Xinyang never mentioned it, nor did she take the initiative to give it to her. "Many thanks." Gu Jiao put on the thin jacket. It was spring, and the weather wasn't so cold. However, in order to help Gu Jiao recover, the room was still lit with smokeless silver charcoal. With a thin jacket on, Gu Jiao felt warm enough. She subconsciously touched her neck, and found a protective talisman strung with a red string. She made a sound of surprise. Xiaoheng looked at the protective talisman around her neck and said, "It's not the original one. That one can't be found. My mother had someone make a new one." It was too chaotic at the time, and the protective talisman had long been mixed with the blood and mud. It was dark, and Gu Jiao had lost her mind, so there was no way to find it. Xiaoheng sent people to look for it, but the scene was too damaged, and the protective talisman had long been broken into pieces. Gu Jiao's memory of what happened after she took off the protective talisman was fragmented. She knew that she killed the master from Yin Kingdom, but what happened after that? What happened to her after that? She opened her mouth. "Medicine," Xiaoheng said. "It's here. You sent the medicine into the capital, and handed it to the Imperial Guards. Little Chi's poison has been cured, and he's recuperating in Cunning Palace. When you have time, I'll bring him over to thank you." Gu Jiao thought seriously. "It can't be just a verbal thank you." Xiaoheng couldn't help but laugh. "Okay, let Cunning Palace reward you handsomely. What about Princess Xinyang's dragon shadow guards?" Gu Jiao remembered that they had been poisoned by insects. Xiaoheng couldn't help but feel proud of her. "The medicine you brought back also had the antidote for those poisonous insects. Master's wife has already helped them clear the remaining poison from their bodies." Gu Jiao said again, "Then my insects," Xiaoheng smiled. "They're at Master's wife's place. Master's wife said that those insects need to be raised, otherwise they'll die in 2 days. She'll raise them for you first, and when you recover, she'll give them to you." Gu Jiao nodded. "That was good." Gu Jiao said, "My red tasseled spear." Xiaoheng said, "I've found it." Then, Gu Jiao wanted to ask if she had hurt anyone, but when she turned her head, she saw the wound on Xiaoheng's neck. Looking carefully, it wasn't caused by a sharp blade, but 2 rows of extremely eye-catching teeth marks. Gu Jiao was speechless. Xiaoheng saw that she had seen it, so he didn't deliberately hide it. He said mischievously, "Do you remember now?" Gu Jiao lowered her head and looked at her fingers. "No." Xiaoheng smiled. "You're really strong." Gu Jiao refused to admit it. "I didn't." Xiaoheng suddenly stood up and leaned close to her. He whispered in her ear, "Next time bite somewhere else. My colleagues will laugh at me." Gu Jiao pulled her little ear. "Oh." Xiaoheng had teased her enough, so he stopped. After all, his cultivation wasn't high. If he continued teasing her, who knew who would be the one blushing? There's millet porridge in the kitchen. I'll go get it for you. Yes. And I want more. Be good. If there's too much, I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. I can take it. I want more. Princess Xinyang had just arrived at Gu Jiao's door when she heard these words that made her imagination run wild. What did he mean by, I want more? What did he mean by, I'm afraid you can't take it if it's too much? The sky was clear and the sun was bright. Was he so unrestrained? And that girl was injured. Was it really good to be so indulgent? You don't even know how to close the door. Princess Xinyang sucked in a breath of cold air. She walked to the side and was about to quietly reach out to close the door. Mother? Xiaoheng came out. With a strange expression, he looked at Princess Xinyang, who was leaning against the door in a very strange position. What are you doing? Princess Xinyang stared dumbfoundedly at Xiaoheng, who was fully clothed. She blinked and leaned over to look at Gu Jiao, who was sitting on the bed without the slightest mess. She lightly coughed and calmly said, Nothing. I was just passing by and came to take a look. There was something on the door just now, but it's gone now. Is that so? Xiaoheng turned his head and looked at the bright and clean door. You. Princess Xinyang's gaze fell on the empty bowl in Xiaoheng's hand. Were you eating porridge just now? Xiaoheng said, It's the second bowl. Jiao Jiao is probably starving. So it turned out to be food. She had thought that these two people were finally enlightened. Princess Xinyang solemnly said, Even so, you can't eat anymore. Xiaoheng smiled. Mother is right. Mother, do you want to go in and take a look at Jiao Jiao? Princess Xinyang looked at the empty bowl in his hand and unhappily said, You can eat so much. Is there a need to look? I came to look for you. Xiaoheng indifferently said, I wonder who came to look 3 or 4 times in one night. Shut up. Princess Xinyang coldly led a certain someone to the study at the end of the corridor with a certain someone. With Long Yi guarding the courtyard, Princess Xinyang didn't worry about anyone eavesdropping. Mother and son sat down in front of the study. Princess Xinyang handed him a secret letter. That person from the Zhao kingdom, who came in and out of the manor, has been found. He is an aide of the Zhuang family. His surname is Jiang, and his name is Jiang Ping. His household registration and background have been clearly introduced. Take a look. Xiaoheng opened the secret letter. After carefully reading it, he said to Princess Xinyang, Jiang Ping is Grand Tutor Zhuang's man? Princess Xinyang said, Yes, he is one of his trusted aides. It is said that many of the methods used to deal with Marquis Xuanping's mansion were suggested by this trusted aide. Xiaoheng analyzed, since he is such an important trusted aide, then the possibility of him being bribed by others is very low. Princess Xinyang nodded. Grand Tutor Zhuang is an ambitious person. After Prince Ning was placed under house arrest, he still didn't give up. Every few days he would visit Prince Ning. On the surface, he was continuing the relationship between grandfather and grandson, but in reality, he was inciting Prince Ning to rebel. Fortunately, Prince Ning's heart was already dead, so he simply ignored him. Xiaoheng said indifferently. Prince Ning ignored him, and the Empress Dowager no longer protected him, but he still didn't give up. Princess Xinyang snorted coldly. After sitting in the clouds for so long, one doesn't want to fall. Grand Tutor Zhuang's ambition is too great. Unfortunately, the Zhuang family, which is riddled with holes, can no longer support his ambition. Xiaoheng thought of something and asked, What is the identity of that General Nangong? Princess Xinyang said, Among the 16 great families of the Yan Kingdom, the Nangong family is ranked 11th. I don't know if this general is from the Nangong family. If he is, then our opponent's background is not small. Although the Nangong family isn't even in the top 10, the Yan Kingdom is the most powerful country in the last 30 years. Any family in the Yan Kingdom is an existence that cannot be underestimated. However, the Yan Kingdom has its own laws. Even the Nangong family cannot rashly cause trouble in our country. They don't dare to come out in the open, so we have ways to deal with them. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1084235543. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 588. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Xiaoheng listened carefully, not in a hurry to express his opinion. Princess Xinyang was teaching him how to settle down in the 6 kingdoms, like an experienced gerfalcon patiently teaching its young eagle. He would learn and accept with humility. Princess Xinyang said calmly, "I originally planned to lead the army to suppress them, but after thinking about it, the price would be too high. The life of any soldier is precious." Xiaoheng said, "You changed your mind after seeing Jiao Jiao, didn't you?" Princess Xinyang looked at him with a dark expression. "You can't go a day without tearing down my long thorns?" Xiaoheng smiled and said, "I also think that subduing the enemy without fighting is the best strategy." Princess Xinyang nodded. "We must fight, but don't let our people fight. After all, those dragon shadow guards are not to be trifled with. Against 100 of them, at least 1,000 of us will die." This kind of price was magnified to the extreme after seeing Gu Jiao return bathed in blood. Not everyone was born with the responsibility of the world's people. She was a princess, but her awareness was not that high. It was indeed Gu Jiao who changed her mind. Gu Jiao also desperately defended the city on the frontier, didn't she? She was like this, and so were the soldiers of the Zhao kingdom. They couldn't afford to lose any more people. "Leave the Yin kingdom to me. As for Grand Tutor Zhuang..." Princess Xinyang paused and looked at him with a faint smile. "Leave him to you?" Xiaoheng smiled gently. "Okay." Princess Xinyang paused and said, "Right, let me remind you of something. The Yin kingdom should have reached some kind of agreement with Grand Tutor Zhuang." Before Jiang Ping left, he said to General Nangong, "General Nangong, thank you." In fact, Princess Xinyang knew far more than this, but she didn't tell Xiaoheng. She hoped that Xiaoheng could figure it out himself. She could not protect him forever. One day, he would have to soar alone and fly to a wider sky. She hoped that he would have enough ability to deal with everything. After Xiaoheng came out of the study, Eugene walked in. She had been guarding the door just now and had heard everything that she should have heard. She worriedly said, "Princess, Grand Tutor Zhuang is a sly old fox. Wouldn't it be too dangerous for the young duke to deal with him?" Princess Xinyang said earnestly, "The Nangong family, Eugene, the person who wanted his life came from the Nangong family. Do you understand how powerful the Nangong family is? The Nangong aristocratic family had over 1,000 people and 200,000 soldiers. The Zhuang family was very powerful, but it was not worth mentioning when compared to the Nangong aristocratic family. If he couldn't even bring down Grand Tutor Zhuang, how could he compete with the Nangong family in the future? If he really doesn't have the ability, I'd rather he live in seclusion for the rest of his life." Gu Jiao had just gone through a battle, so Xiaoheng didn't want her to tire herself out. He had her stay with Princess Xinyang to recuperate while he returned to Clearwater Alley to deal with Grand Tutor Zhuang. On the carriage back, he tried to piece together the complete truth from the clues in his hands. Jiang Ping said, "General Nangong, thank you very much." These words did sound like they had reached some kind of agreement. Xiaoheng remembered another matter. When Gu Jiao and Gu Qingfeng were following Qin Fengyan, they had heard Qin Fengyan's conversation with the people of Yen. Qin Fengyan said, "It seems there's nothing to talk about between us." The man said, "If you want your things back, it's best to do as we say." Qin Fengyan said, "Why go through so much trouble? Why don't I help you kill him?" The man said, "If you can really kill him, that's fine. Bring his head over and we'll give it to you." From their conversation, It seemed that Qin Fengyan's things had fallen into the hands of the people of Yin. When Princess Xinyang cleared out Qin Fengyan's lair, they found the money and account books that Grand Concubine Jing had left for Qin Fengyan. It was worth mentioning that Qin Fengyan hadn't seen the people of Yin again after that conversation. In other words, Qin Fengyan's things were still in the hands of the people of Yin. They had checked Qin Fengyan's luggage from the frontier fortress and found nothing valuable. Grand Concubine Jing had left that thing for Qin Fengyan. The things that Grand Concubine Jing had left behind weren't simple. Could this matter be related to that thing? Xiao Heng returned to Jadewater Alley and went next door first. Commandery Prince and had been living here for the past few days. His position in the cabinet had been cut off. In order to force him to lower his head, Grand Tutor Zhuang had cut off all his paths of retreat. His colleagues, superiors, and even his former classmates didn't dare to talk to him. Except for Xiao Lulang, who he had once seen as a thorn in his side. Of course, there was also Chancellor Hua. And then there was Empress Dowager Zhuang. Commandery Prince had already recovered from the shock of Empress Dowager actually dressed up as an old lady and hid here to play leaf cards. And Chancellor Hua actually poured tea and water for Empress Dowager Zhuang, cooked for her, and handed over his private savings. What was the point of worrying so much? His rent hadn't been settled yet. Gu Yan hired him to shovel chicken dung every day. 2 copper coins for each time he shoveled, 2 copper coins for each time he fed the chickens, 2 copper coins for each time he walked the chickens, and 4 copper coins for each time he praised Gu Yan. In total, he could earn 10 copper coins a day, but that was only 300 copper coins a month. It wasn't even half of the rent. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Commandery Prince rubbed his sore shoulders and said, "Come in." Xiao Heng pushed the door open and entered. Commandery Prince said, "Why did you come back in broad daylight? Don't you need to go to work?" His family didn't know about Gu Jiao's injury. Commandery Prince naturally didn't know either. He really thought that Gu Jiao was taking care of him at Princess Xinyang's place. "I have something to talk to you about." "Sit." Xiao Heng sat down across from Commandery Prince saw that his expression wasn't right and couldn't help but ask, "What's the matter? Why do you look so serious? Don't tell me you want to raise the rent." Xiao Heng said, "Do I look like someone who wants to raise your rent? I'll raise it next month." Commandery Prince, "I shouldn't have said that." Xiao Heng said seriously, "I have something important to talk to you about. You can choose not to answer." Commandery Prince's expression changed. "Is it something to do with my grandfather?" He wasn't stupid. Since they were talking about it, Xiao Heng said bluntly, "Yes, I recently found out that your grandfather is colluding with the people of Yin." "People of Yin? How is that possible?" It wasn't that Commandery Prince was belittling himself, but the Yin was a superior country. They didn't even have the chance to get in touch with the people of Yin? What collusion? Commandery Prince said, "I know you don't like my grandfather, but you can't slander him." Xiao Heng said, "A group of people from Yin sneaked into Zhao. I can't tell you their purpose for now. Does your grandfather have an aide called Jiangping?" Commandery Prince frowned. "How do you know?" Xiao Heng said honestly, "He was the one who talked to the people of Yin that day. Jiangping can't be loyal to anyone other than your grandfather, right?" Disappointment flashed through Commandery Prince's eyes. "Jiangping is not only my grandfather's aide, but also my grandfather's adopted son. The only person who can order him around is my grandfather." Xiao Heng looked at him and said, "I'm not here to convince you of this matter. According to the situation I have now, the people of Yin should have given your grandfather something very important. It's very likely that it's the trump card that old concubine Jing left for Qin Fengyan. Unfortunately, it fell into the hands of the people of Yin. You should know that old concubine Jing is a remnant of the previous dynasty. Her purpose is to restore the previous dynasty, so the trump card she left for Qin Fengyan must be something that can overturn the imperial power of Zhao. If it really fell into your grandfather's hands, it shouldn't be hard for you to guess what he would do." Commandery Prince fell silent. Xiao Heng continued, "I came here today to ask you, where does your grandfather usually hide important things? Of course, I also said that you can choose not to answer. No matter what happens in the future, you won't be implicated. After all, Grand Tutor Zhuang was Commandery Prince An's grandfather. Even if he had a falling out with Grand Tutor Zhuang, it didn't mean that Commandery Prince An could sell out Grand Tutor Zhuang with a clear conscience. Xiao Heng understood this, so he didn't force him. A hint of struggle flashed through Commandery Prince An's eyes. After a while he clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "My grandfather is a very cautious person. If you plan on going to his study or his courtyard to find something, then you've made a mistake." "Then where would he put it?" Xiao Heng asked. Commandery Prince An said, "It depends on what it is and his mood." He said that if you can't feel the pattern, then others won't be able to see through you. He was speaking the truth. His grandfather's thoughts were deeper than the sea. Xiao Heng clicked his tongue. Truly an old fox. Commandery Prince An said again, "Zhuang family is bigger than Marshall's mansion. You won't be able to find it if you search aimlessly." Xiao Heng stood up. "Even if we can't find it, we still have to find it." Tonight, he would let Long Yi find it. "Xiao Lulang." Commandery Prince An called out to him. Xiao Heng turned his head. "What's wrong?" Commandery Prince An's throat moved, and with a complicated expression he said, "I'll go find it." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896422826/1084222408. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 589. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. As night fell, the Zhuang family's residence gradually lit up with candles. The servants took down the lanterns one by one and lit them before hanging them up high. Grand Tutor Zhuang was sitting in his study, flipping through the booklets presented by Su Sifu and the others. Minister Xing and Empress Dowager Zhuang were rehabilitated, and each of them regained their status and power. However, Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't do anything when Empress Dowager Zhuang was framed. Some ministers thought that he was ungrateful and didn't care about the sibling relationship. Some ministers suggested that he knew about it, and was just playing along with Empress Dowager Zhuang and others. Everyone had different opinions. This was what civil officials were good at talking about. If they were really free, they would find other things to do. What Grand Tutor Zhuang truly cared about wasn't the quarrel in the imperial court, but his gaze fell on a landscape painting on the opposite wall. "Master!" The steward of the Zhuang family reported happily at the door. "The royal prince is back." Outside the solemn gate of the manor, Commandery Prince An knelt at the bottom of the steps. During the time he had left the Zhuang family, Grand Tutor Zhuang hadn't heard from him. However, this meant that he was still alive. If he had died, the capital would have been turned upside down. Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't deliberately seek him out and cut off all his paths of retreat. He knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on for too long, and that there would be a day when he would take the initiative to return home and beg for his help. As expected, wasn't it? Grand Tutor Zhuang arrived at the entrance of the Zhuang manor, draped in a brown-gray cloak. The servants were all dismissed by the steward. No matter how Grand Tutor Zhuang punished Royal Prince An was his grandson. He could watch Royal Prince An fall, but the servants could not. "I'll go to the storeroom to take a look." After the grandfather and grandson met, the steward also found an excuse to leave. However, Grand Tutor Zhuang said, "No need. Just stay here." The steward was embarrassed. Ah yes. This was too difficult for him. Today, he had seen the little master make a fool of himself. In the future, when the little master became the head of the household, wouldn't he make things difficult for him? Grand Tutor Zhuang ignored the steward. He slowly walked up the steps and looked down at the lonely figure kneeling on the ground. After so many days, he should know that life outside was not easy. Raise your head. Royal Prince slowly raised his head and looked at his grandfather with a melancholic expression. Grand Tutor Zhuang originally wanted to tell her to take a look at herself and see how thin she had become. Who would have thought that the words would get stuck in his throat when he took a closer look? Was it an illusion? Why did it feel like this brat had put on weight? Royal Prince used to be a handsome and elegant man, but his cheeks were slightly sunken and he looked slightly thin. Now the dent in his cheek was gone. With a round face, one would be blessed with good fortune. Of course it wasn't fat. It was just that he had grown up. He was more like the sunshine and handsome that his age should be. But wasn't that strange? He was so skinny at home. How could he have fattened himself up after going out? The main reason was that Royal Prince was forced by Gu Yan to work every day. He did more physical work and his appetite increased greatly. Gradually he grew stronger. He used to be full with just one bowl back in the manor. Now he was a super glutton who could fill 2 bowls and wouldn't feel full even if he ate 3 bowls. Grand Tutor Zhuang suddenly felt a little irritated. Grandfather. Royal Prince took the initiative to speak. Grandson is back. This sentence finally broke the short silence and pulled Grand Tutor Zhuang back from the situation where he didn't know how to react. Grand Tutor Zhuang said coldly, "You still know how to come back? I already warned you. If you dared to walk out of that door, don't think about coming back easily." Royal Prince lowered his head. Grandson knows his mistake. Grandfather, please forgive me. Grand Tutor Zhuang snorted coldly. Forgive? You make it sound so easy. In the future, everyone will be like you. If they are happy, they will stay at home, and if they are unhappy, they will run away. Then what will my Zhuang family be? Royal Prince didn't quibble anymore. He lowered his head and looked extremely remorseful. The steward hurriedly advised, "Master." Royal Prince was possessed for a moment. "Since he knows his mistake, please forgive him this time on account of his filial piety to you in the past. Royal Prince won't dare to do it again in the future. Isn't that right, Royal Prince?" As he spoke, he looked at Royal Prince who was kneeling there with his head lowered in repentance. Royal Prince nodded gloomily. The steward is right. Grandson has suffered a lot outside. In the future, I won't dare to disobey grandfather. These words were a bit unconvincing. After all, he grew up so well even after suffering. If he didn't suffer, wouldn't he go to heaven? However, Grand Tutor Zhuang couldn't think of any reason why Royal Prince didn't suffer. After all, he had already informed all the connections that Royal Prince could rely on in advance. No one dared to take him in. Large inns and restaurants also wouldn't let him stay. During this period of time, at most, he relied on the money he had to stay in some low-class inns. Come in and kneel. Grand Tutor Zhuang said coldly. Yes. Royal Prince responded. The steward hurriedly walked down the steps to help Royal Prince up. His Royal Prince's weak body. Before this thought flashed through his mind, Royal Prince stood up on his own. He was as nimble as he could be. The steward. Royal Prince followed Grand Tutor Zhuang to his courtyard. Grand Tutor Zhuang had Royal Prince kneel at the door of the study. Royal Prince said in a low voice, "Let me go inside and kneel. It's embarrassing." Grand Tutor Zhuang chuckled. "You know how to embarrass yourself?" Royal Prince said considerately, "It's fine if I embarrass myself, but it's not good if I cause grandfather to lose face." Grand Tutor Zhuang flicked his sleeves coldly. In the end, he didn't chase him out. Royal Prince knelt in the middle of his study. Since Grand Tutor Zhuang wanted to give him a show of strength, he naturally wouldn't show too much concern for him. For example, he would ask how he was doing, where he was, if he ate enough, if he was wearing warm clothes, and so on. If he had asked, he might have been able to detect some small flaws and clues. Royal Prince looked at Grand Tutor Zhuang from time to time. Grand Tutor Zhuang knew, but he didn't think much of it. He just thought that this child was looking at his face. He said coldly, "Don't expect me to forgive you so quickly." "Then how long do I have to kneel?" Royal Prince asked pitifully. As soon as he said this, Grand Tutor Zhuang was angered. Was he here to admit his mistake? He hadn't even knelt for long and he wanted to get up. Grand Tutor Zhuang said angrily. Kneel until you learn your lesson. He originally planned to let Royal Prince return to his courtyard, but Grand Tutor Zhuang changed his mind. He should let him kneel through the floor. Master. The steward came again. This time, his expression was somewhat hidden. Grand Tutor Zhuang understood and looked coldly at Royal Prince on the ground. Kneel obediently. Yes. Royal Prince agreed, feeling wronged. Grand Tutor Zhuang left the study. Royal Prince hurriedly stood up and put his ear to the gap in the door. The steward said softly, Master Jiangping is back. He said he has something to report to you. Should I bring him here? Grand Tutor Zhuang looked back at the study with the door ajar and said indifferently, Forget it. Let him wait in my tea room. The steward said, Yes. When Grand Tutor Zhuang returned to the study, Royal Prince had already knelt down respectfully. Grand Tutor Zhuang glanced at the landscape painting on the wall. He hesitated and said to Royal Prince, You go back first. Thank you, grandfather. Royal Prince cupped his hands and bowed. He supported himself on the table and stood up. After he left the courtyard, Grand Tutor Zhuang went to the tea room on the other side of the corridor. Royal Prince, on the other hand, returned after taking a stroll outside. I left my jade pendant inside, he said to the manservant guarding the courtyard. Royal Prince was a very special existence in the Zhuang family. He could freely enter and leave Grand Tutor Zhuang's courtyard. In addition, he was personally brought back by Grand Tutor Zhuang. This meant that the conflict between grandfather and grandson had been resolved. The manservant didn't dare to stop him and let him in. Royal Prince hurried to Grand Tutor Zhuang's study. He didn't look anywhere and went straight to the landscape painting hanging on the wall opposite the desk. He noticed that his grandfather looked at this painting a total of 3 times when he was reviewing the memorials. He looked at it once when he went out to talk to the steward and looked at it again when he returned to the courtyard. Based on his understanding of his grandfather, there must be a mystery behind this painting. He took down the painting, but to his disappointment, there was only a normal wall behind the painting. There were no hidden compartments or cracks. Royal Prince didn't understand. What's going on? Am I thinking too much? Does grandfather simply like this painting? Is this painting priceless? It did seem to be an antique painting. It was quite valuable. Royal Prince frowned. No, there must be a problem. Grandfather has such high standards. Why would he be so nervous about an antique painting? Thud. Royal Prince's hand slipped and the painting fell to the ground. The top of the painting was actually loose. He quickly squatted down and picked up the painting. Then he pulled out the top of the painting that seemed to be whole but was actually pieced together. The painting was hollow. There was something inside. Royal Prince tilted the scroll down, and a rolled-up yellow imperial edict fell out. Royal Prince opened it and found that it was a blank imperial edict from the late emperor. It was stamped with the imperial jade seal and the late emperor's seal. If something was written on it, it would become the late emperor's will. It wouldn't be difficult to remove the emperor's throne and appoint King Ning, or any of the princes or princes. Was this what Jiangping brought back from the people of Yan? Was this the trump card that Grand Concubine Jing left for Qin Fengyan? If Grand Concubine Jing had such a powerful thing, why didn't she take it out earlier to save her life? There was no time to deal with these doubts. Royal Prince only knew that such a terrifying thing couldn't fall into his grandfather's hands. He put away the imperial edict and hung the painting back in perfect condition. He came to the door. After some thought, he gritted his teeth and went back. It was a dark and windy night. Royal Prince held the imperial edict in his arms and walked out in a hurry. Royal Prince. Along the way, many servants and maids greeted him. He ignored all of them and walked straight to the Zhuang family's door. Royal Prince, it's so late. Are you going out? The servant guarding the door asked. Royal Prince's eyes flashed and he said in a normal tone, I have something to do. Should I send someone to follow you? The servant asked. No need. Royal Prince refused. The servant couldn't say anything else and moved aside to make way for him. Royal Prince stepped over the tall threshold. Before his foot touched the ground, Grand Tutor Zhuang's cold and dignified voice sounded behind him. Stop. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1084165006. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 590. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The unexpected voice made Royal Prince An's heart skip a beat. His body unconsciously trembled. This reaction naturally didn't escape Grand Tutor Zhuang's eyes. Grand Tutor Zhuang looked at his back coldly. It's so late. Where do you want to go? Royal Prince An forced himself to calm down. He slowly turned around and tried to look normal as he said to Grand Tutor Zhuang. I left something outside. I'm going out to look for it. Grand Tutor Zhuang looked at him dangerously. Is that so? What did you leave behind? Why are you going out to look for it in the middle of the night? Royal Prince An's forehead was covered in cold sweat. I left a token. It's the Zhuang family's token. Is that so? Grand Tutor Zhuang walked towards Royal Prince An felt a strong aura and pressure. More sweat appeared on his forehead and his throat moved in fear. Grand Tutor Zhuang stopped in front of him and pulled his waist. Then tell me, what is this? Royal Prince An's eyes flashed and he said embarrassedly. My token was hanging on my waist? I thought I dropped it. Grand Tutor Zhuang said coldly. Zhuang Yuheng, how long are you going to pretend? Royal Prince An said, Grandfather, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Grand Tutor Zhuang gritted his teeth. You don't understand? Fine, then let me ask you. What were you doing in my study just now? Royal Prince An's chest heaved up and down. He couldn't hide the guilt in his eyes. He looked at the token in Grand Tutor Zhuang's hand and said, I was looking for this. Grand Tutor Zhuang was exasperated. You dropped a token from outside the residence. Is there a worse excuse? Zhuang Yuheng, you're my grandson. Can't you even lie? Royal Prince An opened his mouth. Grandfather. Grand Tutor Zhuang looked at him coldly. This is the entrance of the residence. There are so many servants watching. I don't want to embarrass you. Hand it over obediently. Royal Prince An avoided Grand Tutor Zhuang's sharp gaze. What? I don't understand. Grand Tutor Zhuang sternly said. Now you're calling me your grandson? Zhuang Yuheng, you are still too inexperienced to play tricks in front of this old man. Are you going to hand it over yourself? Or do you want this old man to search your body for it? This is your last chance. Don't think that I can't bear to touch you just because you're my grandson. If you dare to disobey me again, I'll treat it as if I don't have a grandson like you. Empress Dowager? Prince An shouted behind Grand Tutor Zhuang. Grand Tutor Zhuang subconsciously looked back. Royal Prince An broke into a run. Grand Tutor Zhuang was truly infuriated. He clenched his fists so hard that they cracked and his shoulders trembled. Bring him back here. 2 guards rushed out of the door and Royal Prince An was caught by them before he could run a few steps. The 2 of them carried Royal Prince An back to the gate. Close the door. Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't want anyone passing by to look. The servant shuddered as he closed the door. Just now he had almost let the royal prince go. He didn't know if the old master would be angry. Naturally, Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't have the time to punish these servants. He dismissed them and only left 2 of his trusted guards behind. He looked at Royal Prince An, who was detained in front of him, and said, Do you think you can successfully leave with the things? Do you think you'll have escaped by the time I find out? Zhuang Yuheng, who gave you the confidence? Royal Prince An didn't answer him. Instead he asked, Grandfather, why did you collude with the people of Yen? Grand Tutor Zhuang narrowed his eyes. Who told you? Royal Princeton said, Grandfather, you don't need to know who told me. You only need to answer me yes or no. Grand Tutor Zhuang naturally wouldn't be led by the nose by him. So you came to steal the imperial edict? I don't care what rumors you heard outside. You better shut your mouth. Royal Prince's eyes flashed with a strong sense of disappointment. So grandfather really colluded with the people of Yen. Grandfather, what do you want to do? Rebel. Grand Tutor Zhuang shouted angrily. Kneel down. Royal Princeton didn't kneel. The guard kicked his knee and forced him to kneel on the ground. Grand Tutor Zhuang said, Search his body. Royal Princeton said coldly, How dare you? I'm a royal prince personally conferred by His Majesty. Don't you want your heads anymore? The guard hesitated. Grand Tutor Zhuang said sternly, Search him. The guard continued to search Royal Prince's body. No matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. However, because the imperial edict wasn't a hard object, they couldn't touch it at all. Grand Tutor Zhuang paused. Take off his clothes and tear them apart. Royal Princeton resisted with all his might. He was pressed to the ground by the two guards. His elbows and knees were bleeding. The two guards tore his clothes apart. In the end, they wished they could only leave a pair of pants. Master, I didn't. Royal Princeton curled up his body and shivered on the cold ground. Grand Tutor Zhuang was so angry that he kicked him. Where did you hide the imperial edict? Master, it's not good. There's a fire in the study. Grand Tutor Zhuang's eyes narrowed. He looked at Royal Princeton, who was shivering on the ground. Royal Princeton's lips curled up into a smile. He said weakly, This. Did grandfather expect this? When Grand Tutor Zhuang rushed to the study, the fire in the study was already out of control. The steward said anxiously, I don't know how the fire started. When I saw the fire and rushed over, the fire inside was already out of control. However, I still managed to snatch the seal and memorials on Sir's desk. That's right. When normal people encountered a fire like this, they would of course steal what they thought Grand Tutor Zhuang cared about first. They wouldn't pay attention to anything else. Grand Tutor Zhuang stood in front of the fire. He calmed down and carefully sorted out the situation. He roughly understood what had happened. First of all, Zhuang Yuheng came back with an ulterior motive. He had always trusted this grandson of his too much. Even if he ran away from home, he didn't think he could do anything worse. Secondly, he calculated that he wouldn't be able to take the imperial edict far away. He might as well hide the imperial edict in a corner of the study and burn it. When he came out of the tea room, the servant told him that Zhuang Yuheng came back once. Thus, he immediately went to the study to check the painting. When he found that the imperial edict was gone, he immediately thought that Zhuang Yuheng had stolen it. Zhuang Yuheng must have started the fire from the corner blocked by the bookshelf. He was in a hurry to get the imperial edict back. After he went in, he immediately came out. Thus, he didn't notice the small flame in the corner. Zhuang Yuheng. I haven't seen you for a few days and you've become more capable. That imperial edict was not only Qin Fengyan's trump card, but it was also Grand Tutor Zhuang's biggest trump card to turn the tables. What was the former emperor's edict? It was a legitimate and orthodox edict. Its prestige was above that of the current emperor. As long as he took out the posthumous edict to appoint the other princes and princes as emperors, there would definitely be ministers who would follow him loyally. At that time, with his many years of power and the help of the Yin Kingdom's Nangong family, there would be nothing to worry about. But now, this posthumous edict was destroyed by his most valued grandson. The anger in Grand Tutor Zhuang's heart was enough to burn Royal Prince 100 times. He angrily came to the entrance of the residence. Royal Prince's clothes were already torn. Now he was covered by a guard's outer robe. Grand Tutor Zhuang was not a person who would easily take action. However, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Zhuang Yuheng, you are very good. Very good. You don't want to live anymore? Good. I will fulfill your wish. Guards, drag him away. Flog him to death. He didn't want this traitorous grandson. Grandfather. Zhuang Yueshi suddenly rushed over and pounced on Royal Princeton. She turned to look at her grandfather. Grandfather, don't hit brother. Grand Tutor Zhuang was furious. Even you want to go against me? Zhuang Yueshi kneeled in front of him and hugged his leg. Grandfather, don't be angry with brother. I didn't do it on purpose. Please forgive brother. Grand Tutor Zhuang kicked Zhuang Yueshi away. Hurry up and do it. 2 guards held onto Royal Prince and let go of my brother. Zhuang Yueshi pounced again and bit one of the guard's wrist. What are you waiting for? Grand Tutor Zhuang yelled at Zhuang Yueshi's servant. The servant quickly went forward and pulled Zhuang Yueshi away. Zhuang Yueshi struggled with all her might. Her tears fell like rain. Grandfather. Grandfather. Big brother is your biological grandson. You can't beat him to death. If you want to beat him, beat Qi. Qi is willing to take the punishment for brother. Grandfather. Grandfather, please beat Qi. Don't beat brother. Don't. Grand Tutor Zhuang ignored his granddaughter's cries and pleas. He ordered someone to gag her mouth and drag her away. He looked at Royal Prince coldly. Execute. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, there was a loud banging on the door. Grand Tutor Zhuang frowned. Who is it? Open the door. The Ministry of Justice is investigating. Those who disobey will be put in jail. Grand Tutor Zhuang ordered one of the guards to open the door with a cold face. Assistant Minister Li walked in calmly with the arrest warrant from the Ministry of Justice. He glanced at Royal Prince who was dragged away in time. Then he cupped his hands formally at Grand Tutor Zhuang and handed over the document. Grand Tutor Zhuang, your grandson Zhuang Yuheng is suspected of a murder case. I was ordered to arrest the suspect Zhuang Yuheng and bring him to justice. I hope Grand Tutor Zhuang will not obstruct me from handling the case. Royal Prince was handcuffed and put into the prison carriage. Assistant Minister Li was released by Royal Prince halfway through the prison carriage. Royal Prince sat in the carriage that had been waiting in the alley for a long time. As expected, he saw Xiaoheng. You are really, Royal Prince wanted to say. You are really daring. You even impersonated the Ministry of Justice. When he was about to say it, he remembered that this fellow could even forge an imperial edict. What else did he not dare to do? Royal Prince raised his eyebrows. I can get out myself without your help. No need to thank me, Xiaoheng said calmly. Humph. Royal Prince looked away. The two returned to Jade Water Alley. When Royal Prince came out after changing his clothes, Princess Xinyang also came over. It was the first time Royal Prince saw her. He did not know Xiaoheng's true identity, so he was surprised by her sudden visit. He did not know and did not dare to ask. Where is the imperial edict? Did it really burn? Princess Xinyang asked. The three of them sat in Xiaoheng's study. No, I brought it out. Royal Prince took out a blank imperial edict and placed it on the table. Princess Xinyang picked up the imperial edict and touched the texture and lines on the edict with her fingertips. As expected of the late emperor's imperial edict. The paper is different from today's. It is so smooth. It is said that it was made with a special kind of silk and bamboo. It has a faint bamboo fragrance. How did you bring it out? Weren't you searched? Royal Prince scratched his head. I was searched, but they did not expect me to sew the imperial edict there. Princess Xinyang put the imperial edict to her nose and sniffed it. She closed her eyes to feel its scent. Where is it? Royal Prince. In my pants. Thud. The imperial edict in Princess Xinyang's hand fell. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/108401412. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 591. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all here. What did Royal Prince and just say? This imperial edict was taken out from his pants. Princess Xingyang was in a bad mood. She was a woman, a princess of the imperial court. When she thought about how she had touched and smelled it in front of the two juniors, Princess Xingyang felt that she had lost 10 lifetimes worth of face. Why did you sew the imperial edict in that place for no reason? She slammed the table and shouted. Royal Princeton was a junior and a subject. In addition, Princess Xingyang had a strong aura. Even the emperor was afraid of her, let alone a young royal princeton. When Royal Princeton spoke to her, he didn't dare to look at her to offend her. Naturally, he didn't see her intoxicated actions with the imperial edict. He was startled by Princess Xingyang's sudden anger, and finally gathered his courage to look at Princess Xingyang. Princess Xingyang was furious. Her beautiful face was filled with anger. Her cheeks and neck were red with anger. Royal Princeton was confused and said blankly, "If I didn't sew it in my underpants, I couldn't take it out." He never thought of destroying the imperial edict from the start. Such an important item was a life-saving talisman in his hands. Especially for people like him who dealt with imperial power all day long, no one could guarantee that there wouldn't be a day when the monarch wouldn't be afraid of them. In the beginning, he did plan to take it out with him. But on second thought, if his grandfather found out in time, he would definitely search him. There was only one place where he wouldn't be searched, and that was his underpants. But if it was stuffed in his underpants, it would fall off easily and be touched easily. Thus, he went back to the study and sewed it on the fabric of his underpants. As for why he knew how to sew and mend, it was thanks to the difficult days in Baishui Alley. As a man, he actually learned how to sew clothes. Of course, his grandfather's thoughts were too deep. He didn't rule out the small possibility that he would really take off his underpants to check. Thus, he set the study on fire. He purposely showed flaws and covered it up to make his grandfather think that he had the imperial edict on him. Later, when the study was burned down, he showed a proud expression in front of his grandfather, making him think that he was trying to distract him so that he could set fire to the imperial edict. This way, no matter what, his grandfather would never take off his underwear again. However, he did not expect that his grandfather would be so angry that he would be beaten to death. This was beyond his expectations. He had overestimated his grandfather's affection for him. If it weren't for Xiao Heng secretly keeping an eye on him and promptly sending Assistant Minister Li to take him away, he probably would have gone to see the previous emperor with the imperial edict in his pants. However, he would not thank Xiao Lulang. Princess Xingyang was so angry that she almost died. She ferociously glared at Junwang. She was truly unable to control herself. Long Yi, castrate him. Long Yi entered in a flash and grabbed Dukan. Then he threw him into the salt jar in the backyard. Princess Xingyang, I asked you to castrate people, not pickle vegetables. Princess Xingyang left with an ashen face. Dukan curled up at the mouth of the salt jar with a dumbfounded expression. He looked at Xiao Heng, who was walking towards him. What did I say wrong? Why was Princess Xingyang angry? Could it be that she felt that I blasphemed the imperial edict? In all honesty, I really had no other choice at that time. Xiao Heng had witnessed the entire process. He held back his laughter and pulled Dukan up from the salt jar. No, you were able to bring the imperial edict out. You made a great contribution. Then why is she still angry? Dukan muttered and patted the salt off his body. He thought of something and said in a low voice, It seems that the rumor is true. What rumor? Xiao Heng asked. Royal Princeton looked around and confirmed that Princess Xianyang wouldn't return. He then said to Xiao Heng in a small voice, Princess Xianyang is temperamental. She always abuses Marquis Xianping. Marquis Xianping turned against her husband because he couldn't stand her violence. The corner of Xiao Heng's mouth twitched. She can't beat Marquis Xianping, right? Dukan said. She is a princess. Marquis Xianping does not dare to fight back. Xiao Heng. As they spoke, the two returned to the study. Do you want to take a look at the imperial edict? Dukan picked up the imperial edict on the table and handed it to Xiaoheng. No need, Xiaoheng said. He calmly took out a brocade box and opened it, saying to Dukan, "Here, put it inside." Oh. Dukan put the imperial edict into the brocade box. "You don't even want to take a look? Aren't you afraid that it's fake?" Xiaoheng said meaningfully. "No, Princess Xinyang already tested it. Didn't she say that the silk paper is different and is especially smooth?" Dukan nodded in realization. "I think so." Xiaoheng could not take it anymore. If he held it in any longer, he would suffer internal injuries. He closed the box and said to Dukan sternly, "Then I will leave first." Xiaolulang. Dukan looked at him fixedly. "I used my life to exchange for this imperial edict. Can you spare my grandfather's life because I gave it to you?" Xiaoheng paused and looked at him seriously. "Aren't you afraid that he will suffer a fate worse than death? After all, for an ambitious person, losing everything was the greatest torture." Dukan only looked at Xiaoheng quietly and did not speak. Xiaoheng nodded. "Okay, I understand. I promise you." Dukan said gratefully, "Thank you." Xiaoheng took the imperial edict and went to the residence on Vermilion Bird Avenue. Princess Xinyang washed 18 basins of water in her room, scrubbing her hands and nose until they were rotten. Eugene did not know what happened and asked Princess Xinyang, but Princess Xinyang refused to say. "Young Marquis, you've come." Eugene saw Xiaoheng walk in with a brocade box in his arms, and his heart relaxed. Xiaoheng looked at the angry Princess Xinyang. To be honest, he rarely saw his mother like this. "Aunt Eugene, let me take care of my mother." He suppressed the smile on his face and said. Eugene looked at Xiaoheng strangely and said, "Okay, you do it." She put down the basin and turned to leave. Princess Xinyang sat on the chair and rubbed her hands as she said unhappily, "What? Are you here to laugh at me?" Xiaoheng clicked his tongue and said innocently, "Look at what you are saying. Am I, your son, that kind of person? Besides, what kind of joke do you have to laugh at? Isn't it just an imperial edict that you took out from your pants?" Xiao Lulang. Lulang was now Xiaoheng's courtesy name. She even called him by his surname, which showed how angry Princess Xinyang was. Xiaoheng obediently kept his mouth shut. Princess Xinyang saw the box in his hand and frowned. "What is this?" Xiaoheng said truthfully, "An imperial edict." Princess Xinyang was startled, then realized it was the imperial edict from the previous emperor. Her face darkened. You still dare to bring this thing here?" Xiaoheng said helplessly, "This thing is too precious. It's not safe to leave it with me." This was the truth. The child at home was too naughty. It was hard to guarantee that one day he wouldn't take it out and destroy it. After thinking it over, he could only leave it with Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang obviously understood this. She clenched her teeth. "Take it for Eugene." Xiaoheng held the brocade box and bowed. "As you command, mother." He turned and left. Princess Xinyang glared at him. "Come back here." Xiaoheng obediently turned around and smiled. "Mother, do you have any other orders?" Princess Xinyang said with a sullen face. "Change the way you address me." Xiaoheng bowed again and smiled from ear to ear. "Yes, Honorable Regent Princess." Princess Xinyang. After Xiaoheng handed the imperial edict to Eugene for safekeeping, he went to the adjacent room to accompany Gu Jiao. Recently, the two of them had been busy with their own matters and rarely had time to be alone. Eugene handled the imperial edict properly and returned to Princess Xinyang's room. Princess Xinyang had finally finished bathing and was sitting in front of the dressing table applying vanishing cream. A woman's hands also needed to be taken care of. "Let me do it," Eugene said. Princess Xinyang handed her the vanishing cream. Eugene used her fingertips to scrape a bit, then lifted Princess Xinyang's left hand and gently smeared it on the back of her hand. "Princess, I just heard from the young duke that the previous emperor left behind a blank imperial edict. Without that imperial edict, I'm afraid that Grand Tutor Zhuang won't be able to cause any more waves." Princess Xinyang pursed her lips. "Humph." Eugene smiled gently. "The young duke is really capable." Princess Xinyang chuckled. "What can he do? The imperial edict was stolen by Zhuang Yuheng. He just sent someone to bring Zhuang Yuheng out. After applying the vanishing cream, Eugene gently massaged Princess Xinyang's hand. Why would Zhuang Yuheng be willing to steal the imperial edict for the young duke? Has the princess never thought of this question? Zhuang Yuheng and Grand Tutor Zhuang had a falling out, and no one in the capital dared to take him in. Only our young duke was bold enough. Princess Xinyang pursed her lips. Eugene continued. To do what ordinary people can't, to think what ordinary people can't, this is the young duke's talent. The young duke is a good child with foresight, strategy, courage, and breadth of mind. How could Princess Xinyang not know? She just wanted to hear others praise her son. Eugene smiled and placed her tender left hand on her thigh. Then she picked up her right hand and began to gently apply the vanishing cream. Grand Tutor Zhuang first lost the protection of Empress Dowager Zhuang. Then he lost Prince Ning as a bargaining chip. Now he doesn't even have a chance to turn the tables. I reckon that the Zhuang family's luck has run out, and there's nothing to fear. But the people of Yan are a bit of a headache. What does the princess plan to do? Princess Xinyang said thoughtfully. I want to kill someone with a borrowed knife. Eugene was slightly startled. Whose knife does the princess want to borrow? Princess Xinyang looked coldly at the setting sun outside the window. The people of Yan. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1084000682. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 592. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. In the room next door, Xiaoheng peeled an orange for Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao had been resting for 4 days. The wounds on her arms and waist were healing well. And the wounds on her wrists were also recovering well. In another 2 or 3 days, the bandages would be completely removed. Gu Jiao had never rested for so long. She was about to grow mold in the room. She seemed to understand Mo Qianxue's frustration a little. I'm fine. I can go back now. Gu Jiao said as she sat on the bed. No. Xiaoheng refused. Dr. Song said that you have to rest for at least 7 days. In fact, it was reasonable to say that she should rest for 10 days to half a month. However, Dr. Song and Xiaoheng both understood that she wasn't someone who could stay cooped up in the room for so many days. In addition, her injuries did heal faster than ordinary people, so they reduced it to 7 days. Gu Jiao. Oh. Xiaoheng chuckled softly and handed her a few pieces of tangerine that had been peeled off. He also knew that she was bored and had gone to the yamen less these 2 days. He basically stayed here to accompany her. Imperial Tutor Zhuang's matter has been taken care of. Zhuang Yuheng went to get it. He talked to her to relieve her boredom. Who would have thought that old concubine Jing would have a blank imperial edict from the late emperor? Gu Jiao asked. Why didn't she take it out earlier? Xiaoheng continued to peel the remaining orange petals. I'm guessing that this imperial edict either fell into the hands of the people of Yan long ago, or it was hidden somewhere. Grand concubine Jing only found it before she died, but she didn't have the chance to get it herself. So she left a letter for Qin Fengyan to get it. However, the Yan kingdom found out that Qin Fengyan was on her way to get the imperial edict, so they snatched it in advance and used it to make a deal with Qin Fengyan. What you said makes a lot of sense. Gu Jiao ate a piece of orange. It was so sweet. Xiaoheng looked at her bulging cheeks. She looked like a little squirrel looking for food. He couldn't help but laugh. I'm just guessing, but that's not important. Eat slowly. Yes. Although he said so, his hands grabbed a few more pieces and stuffed them into his mouth. Why do you like eating oranges so much? Xiaoheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He handed her the other half of the tangerine. She took it and pointed at the oranges on the plate. His meaning was clear. He wanted more. Xiaoheng raised his eyebrows and said, "You're getting better at ordering your husband around, hmm?" Gu Jiao nodded and admitted generously. Xiaoheng smiled and peeled another orange for her. This time, Gu Jiao did not eat by herself. Instead, she said to him, "You eat too." Xiaoheng said, "I don't like this." Gu Jiao asked, "Then what do you like to eat?" Xiaoheng looked at her deeply and said, "Nothing." He lowered his eyes and continued peeling the orange. As he peeled the orange, he suddenly felt the light in front of him dim. Gu Jiao's body was leaning towards him. He held his breath and his eyelashes trembled. Gu Jiao tilted her head and reached out her hand to pinch his chin. His heart skipped a beat. "Oh, there's something dirty." Gu Jiao looked left and right. She took away a bit of cotton wool that was stuck to his cheek. Xiaoheng's face turned red in embarrassment. So it was cotton wool? He thought that she was going to. "Husband, what's wrong?" Gu Jiao looked at him and asked. "No, it's nothing." Xiaoheng lowered his eyes in disappointment. He placed the peeled orange on the table and began to peel the tangerine for her. Gu Jiao's lips curved. She looked at that handsome and resentful face. She leaned forward and gently kissed the corner of his lips. Xiaoheng was stunned. He stared at her, dumbfounded. Gu Jiao did not pull back. She just stared at him so close. Gu Jiao blinked. Xiaoheng's heart was filled with heat. He was already at an age where he was full of vigor. How could he resist her teasing? Xiaoheng's throat moved. He looked at her with desire. A righteous villain in his heart was shouting no, no, no. Then, another evil villain slapped the righteous villain to death. Xiaoheng reached out, grabbed the back of her head and leaned forward. Just as he was about to kiss her, there was a sudden cough at the door. Cough, cough. It was Princess Xinyang's voice. Xiaoheng stumbled and bumped into the bedpost next to Gu Jiao. There was a big bump on his head. Eugene and the servant girls covered their mouths and snickered. Princess Xinyang couldn't bear to watch. If she had come alone, she could have snuck away. But she had brought a group of people. So many pairs of eyes had seen them. She couldn't pretend to be blind even if she wanted to. "Everyone leave." She frowned. "Yes." Eugene snickered and left with the servant girls. Princess Xinyang looked at her silly 19-year-old son who was still a virgin. "Good for you. It's broad daylight. Don't you know how to close the door?" Gu Jiao said. "You're not allowed to be fierce to my husband." Princess Xinyang said. "So what if I'm fierce to him?" Xiaoheng's face was flushed red. It was fine if he kissed his wife in broad daylight, but he was also seen by his mother and Eugene. The rules he had learned since elementary school did not allow him to do so. He had gone overboard just now. What was worse was that he had gone overboard, but he hadn't enjoyed the pleasure of going overboard. He'd almost kissed her. What a shame. Cough. Xiaoheng stood between Gu Jiao and Princess Xinyang. He said to Princess Xinyang seriously, "Why did mother come?" Princess Xinyang chuckled. "I can't come, right? Did I disturb your good time?" "Xiaoheng, don't you know there's something called a door in this world? You can do whatever you want if you close the door." Gu Jiao poked her head out from behind Xiaoheng. "That's not exciting." "Xiaoheng." "Wife, don't say any more." Xiaoheng broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly supported Princess Xinyang's arm. He said embarrassedly, "Jiao Jiao needs to recuperate. I'll help you out for a walk." "Humph." Princess Xinyang flicked her sleeves and turned around. Gu Jiao turned her face and snorted. "Humph." Princess Xinyang's eyes widened as she turned around. "Hey, this girl is still." Xiaoheng blocked her with his body and helped her out. "Aya, the flowers in the courtyard are blooming. They're blooming really well. As expected of my mother's flowers. Even the palace gardeners can't grow them as well as you." Princess Xinyang was pushed out of the room by her son. Xiaoheng supported her with one hand and closed Gu Jiao's door with the other. Princess Xinyang glared at him unhappily. "You've forgotten about your mother when you have a wife," Xiaoheng said with a wronged expression. "Look at what you're saying. Am I that kind of person?" Princess Xinyang raised her eyebrows. "Then let me ask you. Xiao Heng sighed and interrupted her. You and Jiao Jiao fell into the water at the same time. Who should I save first, right? I must save you. Jiao Jiao and I will save you together. Jiao Jiao knows how to swim. Princess Xinyang. Princess Xinyang didn't really come to pick a quarrel. She snorted a few times and talked about the proper business. She was going out and would return in a few days. She had already warned the crown prince about the matters of the imperial court, so there wouldn't be too big of an accident. Don't leave the capital if you have nothing to do. Wait for me to return. Okay. After warning her son, Princess Xinyang took Yujin and Long Yi and sat in the carriage. Yujin asked, Princess, where are we going? Princess Xinyang said, We're going to find another force of Yan Empire. She had always suspected that the group of people who assassinated Xiao Heng didn't dare to make a move in the capital, because there was another force of Yan Empire in the capital. This force might not necessarily be there to protect Xiao Heng. It was very likely that they were the spies of Yan Empire in other countries. They didn't interfere with the affairs of other countries. They only monitored the intelligence of other countries. Nangong family should be acting without authorization. They couldn't be discovered by Yan Empire, otherwise the consequences would be very serious. Princess Xinyang opened a corner of the curtain and said to Yujin, Look at the people on the street. Each and every one of them is dressed like ordinary people. But maybe one of them is a spy from another country. A spy from Yan Empire, a spy from Jin Empire, a spy from Liang Empire. Yujin said, So many spies. Princess Xinyang said, We also have spies in other countries. Yujin was slightly surprised. Shang Empire also has spies? Princess Xinyang said indifferently, Liang Empire, Yan Empire and Jin Empire still don't have spies. Yujin doubtfully said, Then how do we know which one is a spy from Yan Empire? Guess. Princess Xinyang said. The carriage stopped outside a beautiful cloth store. The coachman got off and negotiated with the owner of the cloth store. Not long after, the owner personally got on the carriage and reported, replying to Princess, that pharmacist from Yan Empire wants to go out of the city to pick herbs today. I have already sent people to spread the news that there are herbs he wants in Songbei Mountain. Behind the cloth store was the underground martial arts field. No one knew that this inconspicuous cloth store was actually a spy set up by Princess Xinyang many years ago. Yujin frowned and said, Princess, are you suspecting that the pharmacist from Yan Empire is a spy from Zhao Empire? Isn't this too blatant? Isn't he hiding his identity from Yan Empire? Princess Xinyang said coldly, Sometimes, the more open you are, the less people suspect you. Besides, Zhao Empire is just a lower country. Yan Empire doesn't need to be too careful. Whether he is the one I am looking for, we will know after following him. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/10838071. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 593. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. The pharmacist of the Yen state came to the underground martial arts arena more than 10 years ago. Princess Xinyang didn't pay much attention to this person. To be exact, she didn't pay much attention to the underground martial arts arena. There was fighting and killing there all day long. After going there once or twice, she lost interest. After the pharmacist of the Yen state came out of the underground martial arts arena, he sat in an ordinary carriage. Including the coachman, there were 4 accompanying guards. Princess Xinyang didn't know martial arts and couldn't see the depth of their skills. But according to the information she had, the pharmacist of the Yen state had been in the Zhao kingdom for a long time, and had never been defeated by anyone. Almost no one in the underground martial arts arena dared to challenge his authority. Follow from a distance. Don't let him find out. Princess Xinyang ordered the coachman. The coachman replied, yes. In broad daylight, there were many carriages heading towards the West City Gate. Even if they followed behind, it was not easy to tell that they were doing it on purpose. Once they left the West City Gate, they would have to pay more attention. However, Princess Xinyang was already prepared. Her carriage had the insignia of the relay station. The sky was dark. It looks like it's going to rain. Eugene looked at the sky outside the window and said. Princess Xinyang said, it's a bit stuffy in the morning. It's probably going to rain. It's okay. He can go to the village to hide from the rain. The carriage followed at a moderate speed. When it approached the official road of Songbei Mountain, the pharmacist of the Yen state stopped. The pharmacist of the Yen state left the coachman to look after the carriage. He took 3 guards, each with a basket of herbs, and went up the mountain to pick herbs. The pharmacist of the Yen state didn't go out of the city to pick herbs at a fixed frequency. Sometimes he didn't go out once a year. Sometimes he was out for half a month. It had been half a year since the pharmacist of the Yen state went out to pick herbs. If they missed this chance, they didn't know how long they would have to wait. After all, it wasn't always possible to find the herbs he needed and lure him out. Princess Xinyang's carriage also stopped. Eugene looked at the pharmacist of the Yen state through the gap in the curtain. Princess, they went into the mountain. Princess Xinyang also looked through the gap. It's good that they went into the mountain. She had already asked people to plant the herbs in the mountains. To be honest, the herbs were not very expensive, but they were not commonly seen in this season. She also spent a lot of effort to buy them from others. Longyi. Princess Xinyang gestured. Longyi flashed away. Princess Xinyang was not sure if the imperial advisor of the Yen kingdom was from the Yen kingdom, so she needed to test him. The first step was to lead him to the Nangong family. The herb was planted on the hillside, and the Yen kingdom's pharmacist soon found it. He was overjoyed. This kind of herb had to be dug out along with its roots, otherwise it would lose its medicinal efficacy. He took out a shovel, then squatting down he dug out the medicinal herbs. And just when he was about to carefully put the medicinal herbs into a box and put it into the medicine basket, Longyi suddenly came over. Longyi snatched his box and ran away without hesitation. Medicine master. Are you all right? A guard hurried over. Longyi's action was too fierce, and the Yen kingdom's pharmacist fell on his butt. He stood up with the help of the guard, patted his trousers and said, I'm fine. After coming to the Zhao country for so many years, he was already used to speaking the Zhao country's language, and the guards were also the same. I'll chase after him. That guard said. The Yen kingdom's pharmacist waved his hand. It's just a stalk of herb. If he wants it, then give it to him. There's no need to chase. Princess Xinyang waited in the carriage for a long time, and as a result, she saw the Yen kingdom's pharmacist continue to bury his head in picking herbs. Princess Xinyang. In any case, he's a pharmacist from the Yen kingdom. His herbs were stolen, and he didn't even chase after them. Princess Xinyang was angry. Who was it? Eugene thought for a bit and said embarrassedly. Could it be that Longyi's action was too fast, and no one saw that he was a person? A shadow flashed past. She probably thought that he was a monkey from the mountains. Princess Xinyang thought this was a possibility. Longyi, go again. Don't be too fast. He couldn't be fast, he had to be slow. Longyi was enlightened. He came to the side of the Yen kingdom's pharmacist very, very slowly, and reached out his hand. It was as if he was in slow motion, and he snatched the herb from his hand. Then he turned around slower than a tortoise, moved his legs slower than a seahorse, and turned his head slower than a sloth. It was as if he was talking to the Yen kingdom's pharmacist. Come, chase me, yeah? Yen kingdom's pharmacist. Pharmacist. The guard beside him said in a low voice. The Yen kingdom's pharmacist shook his head. I thought he was a monkey, but it turns out he's a fool. Forget it, ignore him. A fool was already pitiful enough. What was going on with chasing after him? Then Long Yi's seduction failed. Princess Xinyang held her forehead. Long Yi, can you be a bit more normal? I'll do it myself, Princess Xinyang said seriously. Eugene looked at her worriedly. Princess, how will you do it? Honey trap, Princess Xinyang said coldly. I'll go find him and say I'm lost. I'll have him give me a ride and send me to the relay station. Eugene looked up and down at Princess Xinyang. You don't look like someone who can get lost. Princess Xinyang glanced at her and said, I was robbed by a fool. Can't I? Eugene laughed hollowly. Okay, you're the princess. You have the final say. You're not allowed to follow me, she ordered Long Yi. Princess Xinyang elegantly got off the carriage. As a princess of a country, even in the depths of a mountainous area, she was calm. Princess Xinyang raised her chin and lifted her skirt. Like a proud peacock, she walked towards the mountainous area. The mountain road was rugged, and after walking a few steps, she stepped on her own skirt. With a cry, she rolled down the slope and fell flat on her face with her mouth full of mud. Eugene sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Long Yi covered his eyes. But because of this fall, the Yen Kingdom's pharmacist heard her scream. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist sent his subordinates to check what was going on. A guard found the dazed Princess Xinyang in a ravine. At this moment, her jewelry had been sent flying, and her hair was messed up. Her hair was a mess, and her body was covered in mud. She really did look like a madam who had fallen on hard times. Someone fell down at the foot of the mountain. The bodyguard reported. Let's go take a look, the Yen Kingdom's pharmacist said. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist went to the foot of the mountain and let the bodyguard pull the person out of the gully. Princess Xinyang's face was covered in mud. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist naturally knew medical skills, but he didn't want to touch her body without her consent. He simply checked her pulse through her sleeve. The pulse doesn't look like a big problem. I don't know if there are any other internal injuries. Saying this, he looked all around. Eugene and Long Yi hurriedly hid in the carriage. Their carriage was hidden behind a row of big trees. If they didn't walk over, they wouldn't find it. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist helplessly said, Go get a stretcher. First, carry her into the carriage. Yes. 2 bodyguards went to the carriage and took a stretcher. They carried Princess Xinyang in. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist had almost finished gathering the herbs. He also sat in the carriage. The bodyguard asked, Pharmacist, where are we going? The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist replied, There's a relay station in front. Let's go there. Princess Xinyang had never expected that her beauty scheme would fail. In the end, it became a scheme of injuring herself to gain sympathy. But it wasn't bad. It was fine as long as she could fool him. When the carriage arrived at the relay station, Princess Xinyang pretended to be in a daze and opened her eyes. Her acting skills were somewhat lacking compared to the old chancellor and Xiaoheng. But compared to Gu Jiao, she was still a lot better. At least, she didn't give herself away. Plus, she was already in a daze from the fall. My home is in front, she said weakly. Since it was in front, then he might as well help her to the end. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist let them continue forward. In the end, after walking for a long time, the Yen Kingdom's pharmacist asked, Madam, which place is in front? The Princess Xinyang pretended to be unconscious. It's in front. After walking for another long time, the Yen Kingdom's pharmacist asked, Are you sure you didn't remember the wrong way? The Princess Xinyang continued weakly, No, my home is really in front. It's a villa. Did you pass by it? No. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist looked out the window. At this moment, a guard on horseback suddenly pointed ahead and said, Pharmacist, there's a villa over there. Is that your home? The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist looked at the Princess Xinyang. The Princess Xinyang closed her eyes and fainted on the spot. The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist sighed. Forget it, let's go and ask first. The coachman drove the carriage over. As they got closer, the coachman muttered, Whose villa? Why is it built near a cemetery? The carriage stopped. A guard got off the horse and knocked on the door. Is anyone there? Is anyone there? We're just passing by. Your madam is injured. Is it your madam? Hey, Is anyone there? The guard turned back strangely. Pharmacist, there doesn't seem to be anyone. The Princess Xinyang's eyelids twitched. No one? Or was there someone who didn't dare to open the door? Maybe the villa is too big and the people inside can't hear. Go in and take a look. Yes. Don't break other people's things. Yes, pharmacist. The guard pushed open the courtyard door. The door wasn't locked from the inside, so they weren't considered breaking in. Is anyone there? The guard asked loudly as he searched the villa. However, after strolling around, the guard was confused. Pharmacist, there's no one in the villa. The Princess Xinyang sat up. What do you mean there's no one? The Yen Kingdom's pharmacist looked at her in astonishment. You're awake. Is this your family's manner? The Princess Xinyang didn't care about her aching body. She gritted her teeth and got off the carriage. She entered the villa and found that it was empty, just as the guard said. There wasn't a single person in sight. How could this be? Where did everyone go? The Princess Xinyang frowned and stood in place. Her mind raced. She thought of something and her expression changed. Oh no. We've been tricked. Outside the capital, there was a moat where one could row a boat on it. From the west gate to the south gate, it would take less than 2 hours to reach the destination. Outside the south gate, dozens of cargo ships came ashore one after another. Who are you? The city's guard stopped the caravan. The leading merchant smiled, took out his travel permit and a heavy bag of gold, and handed it to him. This humble one is in the business of a cloth store. These are all silks that this humble one brought from the south. The guard took the gold, and wandered around the long caravan for a while. He took out 2 of the boxes and checked them. They were indeed silk. All the silk is yours. Yes, it's all mine. Every car needs to be inspected. It's my duty, my duty. Go ahead and check. Every time a carriage passed, the guard would pick a box to check. Sometimes it was the top box, sometimes it was the bottom box. No matter how he checked, it was silk. All right, let's all pass. The guard said. Yes. The leader of the merchants smiled and led his caravan into the city. In a tea house near the city gate, an old man and a middle-aged man in a black robe sat facing each other in a room on the second floor. The 2 of them looked at the caravan through the window. The leader of the merchants nodded to the old man without batting an eyelid. The old man smiled and took a sip of tea. Princess Xinyang didn't expect that we would play an empty fort strategy for her, right? The man in the black robe said with satisfaction. Grand Tutor Zhuang is wise and resourceful. Admirable. The old man, Grand Tutor Zhuang, waved his hand and smiled. General Nangong is exaggerating. If General Nangong didn't trust me and told me that Xiao Lulang was Xiao Heng, how could I have thought of keeping an eye on Princess Xinyang? General Nangong said. This Princess Xinyang is very powerful. She actually guessed why we couldn't make a move in the capital, and let our Yen Kingdom's Changfeng Shi out. If we hadn't left early, we would have been discovered by Changfeng Shi. Changfeng Shi served the Yen Kingdom's royal family. Although the Nangong family was strong, they didn't dare to steal the royal family's edge. Grand Tutor Zhuang said without restraint. Now that she has led Changfeng Shi out, you can make a move in the capital. General Nangong said meaningfully. I didn't even tell Qin Fengyan about Xiao Liulang's identity, but I told Grand Tutor. It turns out that I made the right bet. Grand Tutor is indeed a more suitable ally than Qin Fengyan. Grand Tutor Zhuang smiled. I've eaten more salt than they have rice. General Nangong won't be disappointed if you cooperate with me. They thought that I would obediently surrender without an imperial edict. Ha! If they make my life difficult, then no one will have a good life. I'd like to see what the Empress Dowager will do after Xiao Heng falls into my hands. Between the Emperor and Xiao Heng, she'll only protect one. I'd like to see who she'll protect. If she protects the Emperor, she'll betray herself, offend the Gu family, and also offend Princess Xinyang and Marquis Xianping. But if she protects Xiao Heng, she'll kill the Emperor, betray the royal family, and betray the whole world. Princess Xinyang is trapped outside the city, and Marquis Xianping hasn't returned from his campaign. General Nangong, this is a great opportunity for you to make a move. Even the heavens are helping you. Sure enough, cooperating with Grand Tutor Zhuang was the right choice, General Nangong said with satisfaction. After this is done, I want Xiao Heng's head and that girl's head. That girl killed one of my masters, and I want to avenge him. Grand Tutor Zhuang smiled faintly. Don't worry, they'll all belong to General Nangong. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1083777040. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 594. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. Vermilion Bird Avenue. Little Jing Kong didn't go back to Clearwater Alley after school. Instead, he pestered Lu Quan to come here to find Gu Jiao. Lu Quan knew that Gu Jiao was recuperating. He didn't want the little guy to know the truth, so he deliberately said that he didn't know the way. Little Jing Kong patted his chest and said, I've been here before. I remember the way. Little Jing Kong was the most difficult child to fool in the family. Lu Quan had no choice but to bring him here. Gu Jiao's injury had greatly improved, but her wrist and waist were still wrapped in gauze. The little guy could tell that Gu Jiao was injured at a glance. Little Jing Kong couldn't bear to blame Gu Jiao for hiding the truth from him. He went to the study to find his bad brother-in-law who was writing a letter. He put his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, You're a bad brother-in-law who lies. How did I lie? Xiao Heng asked. Jiao Jiao is obviously injured, but you didn't tell me. Little Jing Kong said bitterly. Just because of this? Xiao Heng smiled faintly and said, I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you the whole truth. My mother does have an old problem of angina, and Jiao Jiao is here to accompany her. Little Jing Kong frowned and thought carefully. What he said seemed to make sense, but why did he feel that something was wrong? Well, have you finished your homework today? Xiao Heng decisively changed the topic. Have you memorized the poetry collection of the Yin Kingdom that Ming sent you last time? I'm almost done, but there are a few that I don't know. Little Jing Kong said with his hands on his hips, but I've already made progress. Don't try to change the topic. I'm not a child anymore. You can't fool me anymore. Xiao Heng's mouth twitched. The little monk's ability had improved. He knew that he shouldn't be led by the nose. Also, you're only 5 years old. If you're not a child, then what are you? Little Jing Kong crossed his arms, stomped his feet and snorted. I don't care. You're wrong. Xiao Heng raised his eyebrows. Do you think that I'm wrong to hide it from you? Or are you jealous because I accompanied Jiao Jiao? Little Jing Kong was hit where it hurt. He was so angry that his little face turned red. Humph. Bad brother-in-law. Dr. Song couldn't stand it anymore. How old was he? How could he bully a child? He called out from the courtyard. Jing Kong, I'm going to brew medicine for Dr. Gu. Do you want to come with me? The sense of mission of boiling medicine for Gu Jiaojiao overcame the desire to win the argument with his bad brother-in-law. Little Jing Kong angrily glared at his bad brother-in-law and stomped his little feet to go out. In fact, Dr. Song boiled the water and opened the medicine bag. Little Jing Kong was only responsible for pouring the herbs into the jar. After that, he obediently squatted beside the jar and guarded it. Gu Jiaojiao didn't like to drink medicine. Because it was boiled by Little Jing Kong, she gave him face and drank it. They had dinner at Vermilion Bird Street. There were only a few of them. Little Jing Kong asked strangely, Why don't I see the princess and Long Yi? And Aunt Yujin? They went out. Xiao Heng said, They might come back in a few days. Gu Jiaojiao looked at Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng said in a low voice, Nothing, they went to deal with that group of people. After dinner, little Jing Kong hugged a small pillow and went to Gu Jiaojiao's bed. He learned to be obedient. He didn't ask his bad brother-in-law whether he could stay here or not, because if he did, his bad brother-in-law would definitely not agree. He simply climbed onto the bed and snuggled into the quilt like a little pig. Then he lay down beside Gu Jiaojiao. Gu Jiaojiao was looking at the music score. This was the music score from little Jing Kong's junk. She only looked at it when she had nothing to do. Little Jing Kong excitedly rolled around in the quilt. Jiaojiao. Gu Jiaojiao looked at this soft little guy beside her. Little Jing Kong looked at the music score in her hand and asked, Jiaojiao, do you like to look at music scores? Just looking. She didn't say whether she liked it or not. As the top agent in the organization, she was actually a cold-blooded killer. How could she like art? Little Jing Kong said, I like to look at music scores. Gu Jiaojiao asked, why? Little Jing Kong rolled his eyes and said, well, it's beautiful. Even if it was beautiful, he hadn't seen it before. Gu Jiaojiao tucked in the quilt for him and said, go to sleep. Little Jing Kong obediently closed his eyes. He was just pretending to be strange. In fact, he wasn't sleepy at all. After a while, he quietly opened his eyes. His small body moved in the quilt and tightly clung to Gu Jiaojiao. Gu Jiaojiao saw through his little movements but didn't say anything. She laughed and flipped through the music score in her hand. Little Jing Kong suddenly shouted. What's wrong? Gu Jiaojiao asked. Little Jing Kong turned over and lay on his stomach on the bed. His small finger pointed at Gu Jiaojiao's waist and said, Jiaojiao, you also have a flower here. Gu Jiaojiao was wearing a short jacket and pajamas. She didn't care that the corner of her pajamas was sticking up, revealing her slender and snow-white waist. Gu Jiaojiao couldn't see the position of her waist. She said, oh, is it a very big flower? Yes, it's this big. Little Jing Kong gestured with his fingers. It was quite small, about the size of a knuckle. It should be a birthmark. Did she have so many birthmarks on her small body? Little Jing Kong pointed at her waist and asked curiously, but why isn't this flower red? It's green. He liked red flowers. But if it grew on Jiaojiao's body, then a green one was not bad either. Gu Jiaojiao couldn't see it herself. But even if she saw it, she wouldn't care. She even compromised with the birthmark on her face, not to mention the invisible one on her back. Gu Jiaojiao patted the little guy's head and said, your hair has grown a little longer. You can tie it into a ponytail soon. Go to sleep. Sleep early and wake up early, you'll grow taller. Okay. This time, little Jing Kong closed his eyes and really fell asleep after rolling on the bed a few times. Xiaoheng pushed the door open and entered. He glanced at Gu Jiaojiao's small bag under the quilt and said, is he asleep? Yes, Gu Jiaojiao said. Then I'll send him back. Xiaoheng said. He seemed to be afraid that Gu Jiaojiao would misunderstand, so he explained, there will be classes at the Imperial College tomorrow. This road is too congested in the morning. It's too late to go to the Imperial College from here. Gu Jiaojiao closed the music score and said, okay. Xiaoheng picked up the sleeping little guy from the quilt and put his clothes on him. The little guy didn't wake up no matter how hard he tried. Xiaoheng poked the little guy's chubby little face and turned to Gu Jiaojiao and said, remember to take the medicine later. I'll come back after sending him back. Gu Jiaojiao agreed again with a calm look. Okay. Xiaoheng carried the little guy out of the yard and handed him to Lu Quan. Take Jing Kong back. Ah yes. Lu Quan thought. Didn't you want to send Jing Kong back in person? Why don't you send him back? Xiaoheng arranged a dragon shadow guard and Lu Quan to accompany him. With Gu Yan's shadow guard armor, they would be safe along the way. After Lu Quan got into the carriage with little Jing Kong, he found that Xiaoheng got into another carriage. He wondered, it's so late. Is Luling going out? Xiaoheng said, there's something going on in the Ministry of Justice. I have to go there. Oh, no wonder he couldn't send little Jing Kong back in person. It turned out that he was tied up with official business. Lu Quan left with little Jing Kong. Xiaoheng said to the coachman, let's go. Yes. The long street was silent. Xiaoheng's carriage didn't go in the direction of the Ministry of Justice. Instead, it went all the way to the east of the city. The coachman driving the carriage was a shadow guard of the princess residence. Shadow guards were much more alert than ordinary people. When they turned into another quiet street, the shadow guard's ears suddenly twitched. "Lord Xiao, someone is chasing after us," Xiao Heng said seriously. "Don't stop. Keep going. Speed up." "Yes." The shadow guard tightened the reins and whipped the horse. The horse felt the pain and sped up in the night. In the carriage, Xiao Heng's expression became vigilant. The shadow guard said again, "Lord, there are people coming from the north and south. There are a lot of them. We're going to be outflanked." Xiao Heng clenched his fists. "Charge." The shadow guard gritted his teeth. Yes, now that there was no one in front of them. The shadow guard increased the speed of the carriage to the maximum. Fortunately, Princess Xinyang was using first-class Fergana horses, so there was no need to talk about their combat power. "Turn left," Xiao Heng said. The shadow guard tightened the reins and turned the carriage into the alley on the left. Almost as soon as they entered the alley, two groups of people came from both ends of the original street. If they hadn't entered the alley just now, they would have been blocked from the front and the back by now. "Turn right," Xiao Heng said. "Turn around." "Charge." "Turn left." Xiao Heng relied on his familiarity with the capital's terrain to forcefully avoid the pursuit of three groups of people. But in the end, this was just a coincidence. In the face of absolute encirclement, he had no choice but to admit defeat. Not long after entering the outskirts of the city, Xiao Heng's carriage was surrounded on a small path that was rarely visited by people. On both sides of this path were embankments. Ahead was a canyon, and behind was a large open space. The canyon and open space were already filled with pursuers. Xiao Heng could only run into the embankments, but even if he ran, he wouldn't be able to escape. The embankments couldn't move the carriage. He also couldn't outrun these experts on foot. The pursuers in the canyon had clearly come from another path. The person in the lead was the cloaked Imperial Tutor Zhuang. Now that things had progressed to this point, Imperial Tutor Zhuang didn't bother to hide his identity. He took off his bamboo hat and looked at Xiao Heng's carriage with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Xiao Heng, oh Xiao Heng, do you think that you are the only one familiar with the capital's terrain?" Since he could call out Xiao Heng's name, it was enough to show that he already knew Xiao Heng's identity. Xiao Heng coldly lifted the curtain and looked at Imperial Tutor Zhuang on his horse through the darkness of the night. "Imperial Tutor Zhuang, I trust you have been well since we last met. Between you and me, there is no need for pleasantries. This old man's goal today is very simple." "Oh, let me guess. Are you going to kill me or capture me?" "Capture first, then kill." Xiao Heng turned his head and looked behind him through the back window of the carriage. Imperial Tutor Zhuang sneered. "No need to look. The people who should be here are all here. You can't escape." Behind them were hundreds of Yin Kingdom's dragon shadow guards. They didn't wear masks like the Zhao Kingdom's dragon shadow guards. Instead, they wore black cloaks. The hood of the cloak covered their faces. In front of this group of people, there was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man dressed in extraordinary clothing. "It must be that General Nangong." Imperial Tutor Zhuang sneered. "I know what you are planning. From the beginning, you guessed that Princess Xinyang's plan had already been leaked. You knew that the Yin Kingdom would take the opportunity to enter the capital. You also guessed that this old man would help them. So you wanted to play the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This is the only way to the Langshan barracks. You wanted to lure us into the Gu army sphere of influence. Gu Qingfeng is not here, and the old marquis is recuperating at home. Let me guess, the Gu family's second young master is currently in the barracks, resting on his spear. It's a pity that you didn't expect us to kidnap you on the way here. When you still don't appear at the appointed time, Gu Qingfeng will come out to find you. But do you think he will be able to find you?" Xiao Heng cracked his knuckles. Imperial Tutor Zhuang, repent and be saved. Imperial Tutor Zhuang laughed arrogantly. This old man guessed correctly, didn't he? Then this old man will continue to guess for you. Are there mechanisms and formations set up in the canyon ahead? Even if the Gu army doesn't arrive in time, You can still kill most of us in the formations and mechanisms. Xiao Heng's expression changed. Imperial Tutor Zhuang took in Xiao Heng's expression and understood that he had guessed correctly. He laughed loudly. Xiao Heng, oh Xiao Heng, I have to say that your plan is truly flawless. You are even more resourceful than this old man's grandson, Zhuang Yuheng. If it weren't for the fact that you have always opposed this old man really wanted to properly cultivate you. Unfortunately, you are the son of Marquis Xianping, so you are destined to be this old man's stumbling block. How about it? Does it feel good to be 1 foot tall while the devil is 10 feet tall? Xiao Heng clenched his fists tightly. General Nangong picked 10 powerful dragon shadow guards. You guys, go take a look at the canyon. Yes. The 10 people urged their horses towards the canyon. The canyon didn't seem any different than usual. Of course, it was also possible that they weren't familiar with this canyon. The leader dismounted his horse and whipped the horses causing the horse to painfully rush over. Nothing happened. Thus he carefully followed. The other 9 people also planned to follow. At this time, he had already left the canyon. He saw something and raised his hand to signal for them to stop. Then he took out a thin rope and tied it to a protruding rock. He passed through the canyon and returned to his companion's side. He pulled on the thin rope with his bare hands and the rock fell. Then, there were several loud rumbling sounds as giant rocks fell from the canyon. Arrows and spears flew out and hidden weapons and silver needles covered the sky. It was as if tigers and dragons were roaring, lightning flashed and thunder rolled. After a terrifying commotion, the path to the canyon was completely blocked by giant rocks. Just now, if they hadn't stopped Xiao Heng in time and allowed Xiao Heng to pass through the canyon and trigger the mechanism, even if they weren't completely wiped out, at least half of them would have died. General Nangong shuddered. Grand Tutor Zhuang sneered. It's a good plan, but this old man still has the same words. Xiao Heng, you're not this old man's match. General Nangong coldly said. Don't waste words with him. Quickly capture him and get down to business. Grand Tutor Zhuang said. Xiao Heng, will you obediently allow yourself to be captured? Or will this old man send someone to capture you? Xiao Heng lifted the curtain and got off the carriage. Grand Tutor Zhuang made a hand gesture. 2 guards of the Zhuang family and a dragon shadow guard of the Yin Kingdom walked towards Xiao Heng's carriage. The dragon shadow guard of the Yin Kingdom didn't say anything and knocked out the hidden guard of the princess's residence. The Zhuang family's guards captured Xiao Heng and brought him in front of Grand Tutor Zhuang. At this time, General Nangong of the Yin Kingdom also rode his horse from behind. He tightened the reins and looked down at Xiao Heng. His gaze gradually deepened. It was as if he was looking at Xiao Heng, but also as if he was looking at someone else through Xiao Heng. You are General Nangong? Xiao Heng fearlessly met his gaze. A general of a kingdom, his aura was enough to crush the backbone ministers of the Zhao kingdom. However, this 19-year-old youth dared to stare directly at him. General Nangong faintly curved his lips. You have some guts. Chop off one of his fingers. Even when he heard that his finger was going to be chopped off, Xiao Heng still looked at him without any change in expression. A dragon shadow guard walked forward and casually grabbed Xiao Heng's left hand. Grand Tutor Zhuang calmly said, Wait. Chop off his right finger. Xiao Heng coldly looked at Grand Tutor Zhuang. The dragon shadow guard pulled out his dagger and was about to chop down when the sound of galloping horse hooves suddenly came from not far away. Have mercy. The dragon shadow guard's movements paused. Grand Tutor Zhuang and General Nangong both looked over and saw Eunuch Qin, who served the Empress Dowager, quickly galloping over. He is. General Nangong frowned. Grand Tutor Zhuang smiled and said, The Empress Dowager's trusted aide, Eunuch Qin. When Eunuch Qin's horse galloped into the open space, it was blocked by the Zhao Kingdom's Dragon Shadow Guard and Imperial bodyguards. General Nangong made a hand gesture, and everyone moved aside to make a path. Eunuch Qin dismounted and panted as he looked at Grand Tutor Zhuang. The Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager has ordered to have mercy, as long as you let Xiao Heng go. The Empress Dowager. Whatever conditions the Empress Dowager has, she will agree to them. Grand Tutor Zhuang slightly narrowed his eyes. Is this the Empress Dowager's intention? Or are you faking her decree? Naturally, it is Aijia's intention. Accompanied by a majestic and domineering voice, a spacious carriage slowly came from behind. It didn't seem to be fast, but it actually moved 100 steps in an instant. Grand Tutor Zhuang's eyes moved. In the end, he had been suppressed by the Empress Dowager's aura for many years. There was an instinctive fear in his bones. However, when he thought of the current situation, he quickly felt relieved. He and Empress Dowager Zhuang had already broken up. He was no longer her subject. General Nangong made a hand gesture, and Empress Dowager Zhuang's carriage drove straight in, and stopped not far in front of Grand Tutor Zhuang and General Nangong. She came almost alone. Now, other than eunuch Qin, there was only one eunuch driving the carriage, and this eunuch didn't know martial arts. General Nangong looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang's carriage with a faint smile. The Zhao Kingdom's Empress Dowager really makes me have a whole new level of respect for you, Eunuch Qin. Empress Dowager Zhuang lightly ordered. Eunuch Qin understood and walked forward to open the curtain for Empress Dowager Zhuang. Empress Dowager Zhuang sat in the low-key and luxurious carriage. She was not afraid in the face of danger. General Nangong of the Yin Kingdom. Why don't we make a deal? You can pretend that Xiaoheng has died here today. Aijia promises that he will never appear in front of the world in the future. In exchange, Aijia can agree to 3 conditions. Any conditions? General Nangong smiled. Empress Dowager Zhuang is really generous. I heard that this boy and Empress Dowager Zhuang are not related by blood. Empress Dowager Zhuang can even ignore her own grandnephew, Prince Ning. Why are you so stubbornly protecting an outsider? Empress Dowager Zhuang was not angry. She said with dignity, "This is Aijia's business. You don't have to worry about it. Aijia only wants to ask General Nangong if you are willing to make this deal." Grand Tutor Zhuang turned his head and said, "General Nangong, don't believe her. She is cunning. If you let Xiaoheng go, she will no longer be afraid of shooting the rat for fear of breaking the vases. She can turn around and lead the army to destroy you. I know that generals' men of sacrifice are very powerful, but I don't think generals' men of sacrifice can walk out of an army of 100,000. Empress Dowager Zhuang said coldly, "Does General think that if you kill Xiaoheng here, Aijia will let you leave the Zhao Kingdom alive? If General Nangong doesn't believe me, you can try. If you dare to touch a hair on Xiaoheng's head today, Aijia will bury all of you with him." General Nangong narrowed his eyes slightly, as if he was thinking about the possibility of this result. Empress Dowager Zhuang understood the principle of giving a sweet date after a slap. She continued to guide him patiently. "This is a good deal. No matter who Xiaoheng is, he will no longer appear in the world with his current identity. He will also not go to the Yin Kingdom to interfere with any of your affairs. Aijia believes that General is only following orders. General's loyalty is valuable, but are the lives of General and so many of his men not valuable? This is a win-win situation for you and me. Why would General not consider it? If General is worried that Aijia will break her promise in the future, there is no need. Didn't Aijia agree to General's 3 conditions? I believe that General will always have a way to get hold of Aijia's weakness. General Nangong, don't believe her. She's my younger sister, and I know her character better than anyone else. She's never had any credibility." Grand Tutor Zhuang could not watch Empress Dowager Zhuang and General Nangong reach a deal. If that happened, he would lose his value. Empress Dowager Zhuang continued to poke at General Nangong's weak spot. General Nangong is still hesitating. Could it be that you are doubting Aijia's sincerity? Is Aijia going alone not enough to show Aijia's determination to negotiate with General Nangong? The Nangong family is ranked 11th in the Yin Kingdom. Although our Zhao country is a lower country, we still have the ability to help the Nangong family. General Nangong's gaze fell on Xiaoheng's face. Xiaoheng's hands had been tied up by Grand Tutor Zhuang's guards. He stood proudly under the blue dome of heaven, without the slightest trace of embarrassment or fear. His eyebrows were very similar to a person's. A pair of almost identical eyes flashed in General Nangong's mind. A bit of hesitation appeared on his face. Grand Tutor Zhuang saw that the situation was not good. He suddenly pulled out his horsewhip and whipped Xiaoheng. He was a civil official and did not have much strength. However, he could not withstand the force of the whip. It swept across Xiao Heng's delicate skin. An eye-catching whip mark instantly appeared on one side of his face. Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes darkened. Zhuang Changde, you're crazy. Changde was Grand Tutor Zhuang's courtesy name. Empress Dowager Zhuang had never called Grand Tutor Zhuang that in her life. General Nangong was also somewhat displeased. However, it did not seem to be because Xiao Heng had been whipped. Instead, it seemed that this whip had caused his eyebrows to swell. It no longer reminded people of the proud and unruly eyes in their memories. General Nangong slowly said, Empress Dowager Zhuang, your conditions are very tempting. However, I am afraid that I cannot reach an agreement with you. Moreover, because you recognized me today, I cannot let you live in this world. General Nangong. Xiao Heng suddenly spoke. Do you really want to go against me? General Nangong arrogantly said. I am not going against you. I am going to kill you. You are not qualified to be this general's opponent. Xiao Heng's hands were tied. He looked at him seriously. General Nangong, don't bully a young man because he is poor. General Nangong was slightly startled. He raised his hand and gave the order. Do it. Leave no one alive. Grand Tutor Zhuang opened his mouth. General Nangong. A dragon shadow guard brandished his sword and ruthlessly chopped towards Xiao Heng's head. At this critical moment, there was a whoosh in the night sky. An arrow fiercely and domineeringly shot over and fiercely pierced through the dragon shadow guard's heart. After the arrow pierced through his body, it was nailed to the ground in front of General Nangong's horse. The tail of the arrow swayed, showing how fast and fierce it was. However, this was not an ordinary arrow. Its body was longer and the arrowhead was larger. It had terrifying barbs and looked like a ferocious beast. General Nangong's heart sank. He had never seen an arrow like this before. An ominous premonition surged in his heart. In the next second, the ground under his feet began to tremble. The dust and sand began to rustle. The horse was frightened and began to circle in place uneasily. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of horse hooves coming from afar was like heavy black iron smashing into the cold stone floor. It also smashed into everyone's suddenly tightened heart. The sound was clearly still some distance away, but the powerful killing intent had already covered the sky like sand and stones. The entire world was covered in a terrifying killing intent. Thump, thump, thump. It was not the sound of the war drums. It was even more striking than the war drums. The sound of the armored horses became faster and faster. It was like a flood rushing over. It was a group of black armored cavalry wearing ghost masks. They held a spear in one hand and a shield in the other. Even the horses wore ghost masks on their heads. They were like Azuraine spirits from purgatory. They brought with them the aura of death, causing everyone to hold their breaths in shock. General Nangong's expression changed. Wasn't this the rumored ghost mask army? The ghost mask army was not truly dead people. It was said that they were as terrifying as the undead. Everywhere they went, no one was left alive. It was like they were pulling their opponents into the purgatory of the underworld. The ghost mask general holding a giant long blade flew over the heads of the 50 dragon shadow guards. He rode a ghost horse and brought with him an unstoppable killing intent as he charged at General Nangong and Grand Tutor Zhuang. He domineeringly blocked in front of Xiao Heng. Grand Tutor Zhuang looked and took in a cold breath. Marquis Xianping? He looked at Xiao Heng again, and saw that Xiao Heng's eyes were calm. He was not surprised at Marquis Xianping's arrival. This is bad. They had fallen into a trap. After all this time, they had escaped and found a flaw in the mechanism. It had all been a smokescreen. The true trump card was Marquis Xianping. Marquis Xianping was not wearing a mask. At this moment, this beautiful face that was known as the #1 face of the Zhao country was releasing endless killing intent. You want to kill my son? Marquis Xianping pointed with his long blade and smiled evilly. He said arrogantly, Is it you who has become arrogant, or is it that I, Xiao Ji, can't lift my blade? The newest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1083593330. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 595. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. If Grand Tutor Zhuang had thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him for a moment, then when he heard the words, "Are you too arrogant, or is Xiao Ji too weak to lift a knife?" Grand Tutor Zhuang instantly confirmed that the person was indeed Marquis Xianping. So his guess was right. Whether it was Xiao Heng's plan to lure the snake out of its hole, or Empress Dowager Zhuang's sudden appearance, their basic purpose was to delay time and wait for Marquis Xianping to appear. But this was very strange, wasn't it? A few days ago, he had received a memorial from the South Island, saying that a group of pirates had escaped on a ship, and Marquis Xianping had gone to pursue them. Could it be that those so-called memorials were all fake? Marquis Xianping was just trying to cover it up. In fact, he was already on his way back to the capital. Grand Tutor Zhuang gritted his teeth and looked at Marquis Xianping, then looked at Xiao Heng. His stomach was filled with anger. The father and son were the same. They were even more scheming than the old foxes in the court. Marquis Xianping glanced at the whip wound on Xiao Heng's face, and his dangerous eyes fell on Grand Tutor Zhuang's hand that was holding the reins. "Which hand hurt my son?" This was the second time that Marquis Xianping had admitted that Xiao Heng was his son. He didn't pretend in front of Grand Tutor Zhuang at all. This was not a good sign. Xiao Heng's identity was still a secret, but there was a kind of person in the world who could keep a secret forever. Grand Tutor Zhuang's eyelids suddenly twitched. He had never been so afraid of Marquis Xianping. After all, in terms of official status, he was no worse than Marquis Xianping. He even had a lot of experience. But now, he was terrified. He subconsciously looked at General Nangong. No need to look. He can't escape. After Marquis Xianping said this, General Nangong frowned. Before he could react, Marquis Xianping had already stabbed the handle of his broadsword into the ground. Immediately after, his horse leaped forward. Grand Tutor Zhuang's horse was startled and jumped around in disarray, letting out a series of neigh. Grand Tutor Zhuang did his best to stabilize himself, but Marquis Xianping's hand had already reached towards him without any explanation. Marquis Xianping grabbed his collar and mercilessly pulled him down from the horse. "Marquis Xianping!" Grand Tutor Zhuang cried out in alarm. "Ho your ass!" Marquis Xianping roughly threw him to the ground. He was a military general. His usual noble and elegant demeanor in front of others was only a facade. Deep down he was barbaric and wild. Most people wouldn't use violence against an old and weak civil official like Grand Tutor Zhuang. No matter what, they would still enforce the law in a civilized manner. But was Marquis Xianping a normal person? He wasn't even a human being. Marquis Xianping had no qualms about bullying this thin and weak old man. Not only did he throw him to the ground, he also tightened the reins in his hands. He raised the horse's hooves and stepped on Grand Tutor Zhuang's right hand and left hand. There were two crisp cracking sounds in the air, followed by Grand Tutor Zhuang's unbearable howls of pain. After Marquis Xianping finished stepping, he turned the horse around and looked at him innocently. "I asked you which hand it was. You didn't answer, so I had no choice but to cripple it." Grand Tutor Zhuang was stunned. There was actually such a shameless and arrogant person in the world. Taking advantage of others and still pretending to be innocent, this was probably referring to him. Grand Tutor Zhuang had spent most of his life in the bureaucracy. Thanks to selling a good younger sister to the palace, his life had been smooth sailing these past few years. Even if someone wanted to trip him up, they mostly used a roundabout and subtle method. Who would believe that his hand would be crippled in front of everyone? Grand Tutor Zhuang had never suffered physical pain before. He was in so much pain that he almost fainted. He looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang, who was sitting in a carriage not far away and quietly watching this scene. Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes were very calm. She had let go of this older brother who had eaten her flesh and blood for her entire life. Zhuang Jins, you're so ruthless. Grand Tutor Zhuang spat out blood and fiercely gasped for breath. Was she the ruthless one? There was a type of person in the world that had become accustomed to eating other people's flesh and blood. Once they were no longer allowed to eat, they would become unforgivable, heartless people. But when they ate other people's flesh and blood, they never thought that perhaps they should not have eaten them in the first place. Forget it, what was the point of talking about righteousness and morality with this sort of person? What was the point of talking about fairness and grace? Deep down they were selfish. It was impossible for them to think for others. Otherwise, they would not have done so many outrageous things. Empress Dowager Zhuang did not plead for leniency on his behalf. In fact, she did not even look at Grand Tutor Zhuang. Aheng, come over to Grandaunt. She was talking about Grandaunt, not my wife. Only at this moment did Grand Tutor Zhuang truly realize that Empress Dowager Zhuang was not acting in a fit of pique. She had truly given up on the Zhuang family. She had a new family. They were not related by blood, but they could rely on each other. In the past, Empress Dowager Zhuang had also treated the Zhuang family right. It was just a pity that aside from Zhuang Yuheng, nobody else could see her efforts. They just felt that she was a daughter that had walked out of the Zhuang family, so she deserved to work hard for the Zhuang family. Xiao Heng turned around and walked towards Empress Dowager Zhuang's carriage. General Nangong's gaze sank. Marquis Xianping pulled out his long sword and urged his horse to stand in front of him. I will slowly take care of that old thing later. Right now, we should settle the debt between you and me. 5 years ago he had not been able to protect his son. This time, he would not allow this group of bastards to succeed. General Nangong looked at Marquis Xianping with a serious expression. He had heard of Marquis Xianping's reputation. First, this person was extremely shameless. Second, this person was actually ranked among the beauties of the 6 countries. Who knew how a grown man managed to squeeze in? His elder sister, imperial daughter Nangong, was ranked behind him. He originally thought that he was a weak and sickly beauty. Who knew that he was an unyielding martial arts expert? Before coming to Zhao country, General Nangong had already gathered enough information. He squinted his eyes and looked at Marquis Xianping's waist. Zhao country's first-ranked Marquis Xiaoji, I heard that you have an injury to your waist. You are not my opponent. Are you certain that you want to fight me alone? That's fine. I will allow you 3 moves. Marquis Xianping snorted. Who the fuck wants to fight you alone? Isn't it better to gang up on him? Changjing. Marquis Xianping lazily lifted his eyelids. General Nangong saw a black-clothed youth leading 3 ghost-masked generals, flying out from the ranks of the ghost-masked army. Using his Qinggong, he swept past the dragon shadow guards on the empty ground, and aggressively landed beside Marquis Xianping. Beat him up, Marquis Xianping said. General Nangong's eyes glared. Did he not care about martial arts? General against general, shouldn't it be a one-on-one duel? Wait, wrong. Marquis Xianping called out to Changjing. Chop him up. Chop off his son's finger, hee. General Nangong. Changjing pulled out his long sword. It was a black iron treasure sword. There was a bamboo leaf carved on the blade. General Nangong's expression changed. Dark Knight sect? Dark Knight sect, the #1 assassin sect in the 6 countries. But wasn't the Dark Knight sect in Zhao country? How could an expert appear here? And by Marquis Xianping's side? Changjing followed him onto the battlefield. His martial arts had improved a lot, and his moves were filled with killing intent. He slashed his long sword at General Nangong. General Nangong quickly pulled out his sword to block. He managed to block it, but he was also forced off the horse. General Nangong was very surprised. Were all the experts of the Dark Knight sect so powerful? He was a member of the Nangong family. His martial arts were ranked among the top in the 6 countries. Soon, He understood why this black-clothed youth's martial arts were stronger than ordinary experts of the Dark Knight sect. He had seen that long sword before. The tassel on the hilt was bestowed by the king of Zhao country. He was there at the time. The owner of the long sword was the current leader of the Dark Knight sect, Changqing. Changjing. When he looked at Changjing again, he was in a bad mood. This was the young leader of the Dark Knight sect. Marquis Xianping. How much did you pay to hire the young leader of the Dark Knight sect? The Nangong family will pay double. General Nangong didn't know whether to be ruthless or not. If he didn't kill the young leader of the Dark Knight sect, he would die. But if he killed the young leader of the Dark Knight sect, he would still die when the Dark Knight sect came to the Nangong family for revenge. General Nangong wasn't a pervert like Marquis Xianping. He was a cultured soldier. But tonight he cursed in his heart. Marquis Xianping didn't care about General Nangong's complicated feelings. He rode his horse, held his long sword, and leisurely attacked the Shadow Dragon guards and guards of Zhao country. His ghost-faced army had 3,000 people. They might not be a match for the Shadow Dragon guards of Zhao country, but no one was stronger than them when it came to fighting together. General Nangong's men were divided into two groups. One group was on the open ground, and the other group was in front of the valley. Empress Dowager Zhuang's carriage and them were in the middle of the two groups. After Marquis Xianping entered the battle state, he seemed to have changed into a different person. He rode on a tall horse and waved the flag in his hand with a dignified expression. The 3,000 troops dismounted and divided into three groups. They held shields and spears and surrounded the two groups of Zhao country's forces. The last group of troops protected Empress Dowager Zhuang's carriage like an iron wall. When the flag was moved, the coiling dragon array rose, and the flying dragon array moved. They could retreat and attack. Every change of the array was invulnerable. On the other hand, Zhao country's side wasn't so optimistic. Waves of shadow dragon guards fell down, and screams sounded everywhere. General Nangong could only watch as the formations he had never seen before mercilessly devoured his army, like the jaws of a giant beast. He was held back by the young master of the Dark Knight Gate and the three ghost-faced generals, and couldn't even give out orders. While he was in a daze, Changjing's sword came over and pierced his waist. She then waved her hand and chopped off one of his arms. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1083403558. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.